I was looking at your face, Asa. Shout out everyone in chat. Shout out to everyone. Am I auto-tune? No, my voice sounds auto-tune. Shout out to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and for everyone on Spotify after the fact. Shout out to all of you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Sorry, as always, for being late. That's me. Spotify listeners, you won't know what we're on about, so don't worry about that. It's Ace's fault. But we have a great
What if our users can't see my
you.
face now? Like, no.
I wonder if Spotify listeners actually do watch the thing as opposed to listen to it, but perhaps they can let us know on... No, Spotify has no comments. Okay, well, we'll guess. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Well, will be an incredible show. We have incredible guests. One of them is just ordering some food, or whatever he's doing. I don't know what Dutch is doing, but he'll be with us shortly. But before introduce the guests, Asa, how are you, bruh?
Yeah, no, I'm properly good. My face did that, like that expression of shock, because you did exactly the same intro that I was planning to do for myself. I had it all lined up. I had the auto-tune button ready to go. But you got in there, you beat me to the punch, so I guess I'm just going to use words. I'm all good. I'm great. I'm looking forward to this. The gaming news cycle has started to kick into gear again, so there's loads to talk about. So, yeah. No, it's going to start and it's going to get very busy. And what a great gentleman to have. I had to get this guy, especially after the Source video. I needed to clear the air a bit so people didn't know that this was a me and Dirk crickety issue, because we are boys, so that's the only reason I could make that video and made it very clear. But it is man who likes to TTS. It is Dirk Griggity, man. Thank you so much again for joining us, bro. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, man, some of the homies still want to fight you guys, but look, brother, I said, look, I don't want to be in the middle. Guys said what he said. The homies said what they said. I'm kind of like, hey, man, look, they're going to say what they're going to say. I'm just going to come on and talk about video games, man. That's, at the end of the day, this is about video games, right?
Yeah, it is until it's not. What's up, Ray? No, just shout out to you, Dirt, and shout out to your crew as well.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and Ray, I reached out to you. Just relax. We can chat. And TTS, I'm sure you don't take it that badly. But yeah, shout out to you, man. And shout out to everything you do, man. It's going to be wicked. Patrick says he'll defend my honor, in which case I am screwed. But thank you, Patrick, for the gesture there. We will have Wandering Dutch, who will join us shortly once he's resolved whatever's happening in the background. And we'll switch up. But to enable him to come into the first topic, I just kind of and an extension of what we were doing last week. And chat, let us know. Asa, what have you been playing? Random crappy VR game, right? Yeah.
Loads of VR games. I've been playing a lot because I finished. I can't remember if I'd finished it before last week's show or not. I finished God of War Ragnarok. Took me a little while to get there. Got to the end of it and suddenly breathed a massive sigh of relief and played about 10 different games to like, I can do things. I've got time. I can play other games. And I played a load of stuff that I didn't like and stuck it in the bin. I'm still trying to decide what to get my teeth into. I've got Horizon Forbidden West on the go, which I'm uncertain on, despite liking the Horizon series a lot. And obviously loads and loads of precious VR games. I've been playing mini golf in VR. It's been delightful, Gaz. Delightful. What about you? What have you been playing?
I've been playing Guardians of the Galaxy. I've almost completed it. I've been playing it for hours today. And I realized this one horrible thing, that I always have this guilt about not making a video, even though I'm playing games, which I will be what we do, just lingering guilt. Like I can make a video. But that game managed to get rid of that kind of guilt for a while, because I am loving that game. Gameplay on Guardians of the Galaxy is very rote. It's almost, it takes the back seat. It's just weird because you always say gameplay is king in games, right? But that is one of those games where the gameplay is possible, but it's only possible because the story is so good, the voice acting is so good, the visuals so good, the whole package is so good. I feel like the developers have been really hard done by. I don't think, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't do as well as they anticipated. And I think it's one of those underrated, overlooked gems. So if you haven't played it, chat, I really think you should. If you want a nice story game to just delve into, and it's one of those games I would recommend just play through. Like, don't hop between games. Just sit there and suck yourself in on that weekend and play a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm at chapter 10. I don't know if that's near the end of the game, but it seems like a lot has happened, and it's such a good game. Like, I'm so lost in this game. Such a good game.
It gets better, Kaz. It gets better as you go. The story is going to knock your socks off towards the end as well. It's such a good game, and it's a weird one because it's one that's, I think it's much better than the sum of its parts, because nothing about the gameplay is actually good, but it comes together so well. So well. But you were just going to say, Joe, you played this one, got through it, had a good time?
Yeah, I finished it. When it came out, I bought it, finished it, enjoyed it thoroughly. It's a great game, great story, great voice acting, funny. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It is beautiful as well.
It goes to show you that studio, that's Eidos Montreal, they're actually pretty good at what they do, man. They can make a solid game like that, and they're helping with Fable, right? So hopefully, everything turns out great with that. But yeah, it's a damn good game.
Absolutely, that's a good point, actually, that they're helping with Fable, because the studios are immensely talented. Even gameplay, right? We say the gameplay is not that great, which it isn't. It's just like with Star-Lord, you're hitting those pistols don't feel very satisfying. It's just like auto fire, really slow rate. Even if you upgrade them with a double shot, it's still not there. But it's the squad mechanics, the fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which is great. So when you do the huddle up and you do it, feel like, yeah, we're doing these special moves. It's fun enough because the whole game is in totality doesn't take itself seriously, but then there does some serious vibes, like the what's his name, raccoon or rat, what's his name, Rocket, like telling you the story of, because I'm not a massive comic book nerd. He says he wears an Akira shirt, although Akira's not a comic book, but like that dog with the CCP thing, that was crazy. I'm not a massive lore fan. But then I'm listening, by the way, people, if you haven't played this game, do make it a habit of exploring. And then, like in Mass Effect, you'd go around the ship and talk to people. It's almost like that, because you're on the ship, you talk to the people, you'll get more out of it, more dialogue. I got more story out of what Rocket was all about. I didn't realize his story is actually really grim about his creation. It's just pretty dark. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So really good game. So I'm like I said to you last week, Ace, I'm not completely sacking away multiplayer, because I've been playing multiplayer with Colt, playing Fortnite with Dealer and Blaze and Erica as well, just like everyone. It was just so much fun. But at the same time, I'm minimizing that. So it's really good. There's a massive backlog to go through because I feel the pressure before this onslaught of games. We're going to get some very busy games. So yeah, man. What have you been playing, man?
Actually, man, I recently finished God of War, finished Callisto Protocol. I'm playing Gotham Knights now. I'm trying to get into that, trying to finish that. Then maybe I'll move into Sonic Frontiers while we're waiting. What comes out this month? Oh, Dead Space remake. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Yeah.
Are you going to be day one with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I love the original, and it's been long enough. Plus it's a real remake. It's not a remaster. Yeah. It's a real remake. So, yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. But, yeah, I've just been playing. I just finished those games. Like I said, I recently got back into Gotham Knights. I tried it at the beginning when the first release. Said it's okay. But I put it down, when some other games came out. So yeah, I picked back up Gotham Knights, and it's not bad. It's not the worst game ever, but it's, I just don't care about the characters. I want to be Batman, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I haven't bought it. Colt loved it. Dino loved it, and Fonz liked it, but
yeah, it's not bad.
It's the characters, man. Like what? It's like Robin, there's Batgirl, there's Deadshot or some whatever. I don't even know. But yeah, I can't get
Red Hood and
Red Hood. Yeah. Patrick, I don't know if Fonz liked the game. How much he shat on it. He liked the game. Patrick, Peeve, thank you so much. I'm not gonna do. I want to do it. I wanna do it, but I won't. But I kind of did. Peeve, thank you so much for being a member, for joining the familia. It's really good. Thanks for that. And your baby father, always nice to see you. Duh, he says, "What's up, fellas? Thank you for the $5 super chat. Looking forward to a great show. Duh, talk that shit. Duh."
Yeah, what's up, your baby father? What's up, bro?
Yeah, I love you, good. Your baby's jokes. And yeah, love to talk that shit. If you didn't know, now you do. Gray Monad, shout out to you. He says, good day. Yeah, so TTS. A lot of people ask me what TTS is. TTS means talk that shit. It's from Dirt and Sean's little catchphrase on their show.
Sean, your name is Sean Podcast. Is TTS Xbox Podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Talk that shit podcast. It's so crazy you can't monetize it. Yo, Sean, I see you laughing when Ray was taking the piss. Don't worry, but you're lucky you Dirt's boy. You're lucky you Dirt. I like Sean though, but I love the someone came and pid or pied. I don't know what his name is. He goes, fuck Gaz. He looks like Triple H, and I died. He got big nose. He looks like Triple H, and I cried. Of laughter, man. That was good. That made me laugh. He looks like Triple H.
Yeah, the homies are wild, man. They truly believe in TTS.
I know they do. Now they know I do too. Like, you thought I was going to sit there, right? Fucking hell. What stupidity to come after me, in my opinion. Reverse Mode, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. He goes, Ion Life seem to steal the Discord from God of War Ragnarok. Actually, let me talk to you about that. I think it highlights just how vulnerable Sony can be this gen to a real Xbox hit. But I think there's some credence there. Like, in my opinion, God of War is big. Compared to Elden Ring, the noise died suddenly. Elden Ring was on social media constantly for weeks. I've never seen anything like it since then. Elden Ring, I've never seen natural excitement, gameplay clips. There are so many spoilers, but they never spoiled the game because the game has so much abundance of content. Elden Ring. God of War, I think people... I haven't completed it. Well, actually, before I go to Dirt, Asa, it seemed like you kind of were grateful it ended. And what are your thoughts on God of War Ragnarok? Do you think it deserves the praise it has got?
Oh, that's a big loaded question. Kind of.
Speak your mind.
On the super chat though, I don't think High on Life did particularly disrupt the God of War chatter very much. I think there's plenty of God of War chatter and arguments about whether it should be Game of the Year and all the rest of it. You're right that it didn't have the tail of conversation that Elden Ring had. At the same time, part of that is courtesy because it is a game that you wouldn't. There's only so much you can talk about in a story-laden game as you progress through it, which isn't the same thing with Elden Ring. For me, I had the same problems as a lot of people where God of War was dragging in the middle. I loved the beginning of it. Then it went puzzles and dragging and like quite painful, but it had me thinking, like, if the end lands though, if it crescendos in a brilliant story set piece or whatever, then I'll probably come away from this game thinking, yeah, that was brilliant. And the story fell flat for me without going into details at all. It was like, of all of the like narrative conclusions that I could have anticipated, it took probably the flattest, weakest, most boring option I could possibly have imagined if I was trying. So I was disappointed coming away from it, but at the same time, I'm really glad that games like that exist. There's going to be conversations later in this one about the kind of games that can thrive and the kind of games that can't, mega brands and AA and all the rest of it. I'm really glad that a game like God of War with no microtransactions to speak of can exist and thrive, but I was also a bit disappointed with how it played out. That's my honest take on it.
No, very interesting. Very interesting, because anyone I talk to, they always almost agree that it drags, but the ending story, whatever happens, I have no idea, saves it. So I'm like, And then, other people I talk to say it's overrated as hell. I don't think that. I haven't found it dragging, but I haven't played it that much. I find myself playing other games. Like God of War Ragnarok has not hooked me like 2018 did. 2018, I was done. I was finished. Like, I was in that world. I was like, this is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. Oh, then in my head, I was expecting to fight, Thor and everything. But Then it recycled. I'm like, but okay, fine. It ended well. Great. This game is amazing. This game, I haven't actually gone back to playing Ragnarok since like a month or two ago. Not saying that it's bad. I never even had issues with the pacing. It hasn't grabbed me yet. I played High on Life. I'm about to complete. I completed Callisto Protocol before I complete God of War. I'm going to complete Guardians of the Galaxy before I complete God of War. I don't know if I want to go. I'm not in a rush to play God of War Ragnarok. And I don't know. What about you? Tell us what you found.
I agree with both of you guys. Actually, I did finish it. I thought it was good. Now, it wasn't as good as 2018 to me. Like Asa said, the middle just dragged. For whatever reason. Like, once you meet the black girl, it's like the story just comes to a screeching halt. Just like that whole act was just boring. The gameplay is solid. The story is fine, not as good as 2018. And I just felt that it's a good game, but it's not what it was. Like was the Meta score higher than 2018?
It's the same.
Oh, it's the same. Yeah, it's not as good as 2018 in my opinion. But like with 2018, guys, like you said, I was just like, oh my god, this game is a masterpiece. It's amazing. It's incredible. One of the best games I played. This one is kind of like, okay, it's cool. You know, it's all right.
That's what it is. I can't say wow. I like the story beats that I really like. Those are the bits that carry me. Gameplay is solid. Nothing to write home about at all. I'm going to write home about it.
I will write home about the gameplay. It's some of my favorite melee combat around. I really like combat in God of War. I really like a lot of the art. The environments are stunning, gorgeous throughout. A lot of the set pieces are. But those things I said earlier.
No. I'm very intrigued by that. Okay, no, it's fine. I find the gameplay okay. It's fun. Then there's avenues there for it to build on combos and stuff. But I don't know. It wasn't like stellar. I was expecting a lot more, but I'm very early in, like probably about 10 hours in. Freya was all I'll say. And your people know what that means. But yeah, look, Pixelbit says the combat is excellent. I was hoping for more bosses. 2018 felt small compared to Ragnarok, says Leo Lion. Yeah, 2018 was small. This is a very large game. It just takes what 2018 did and makes it massive. And the best part is the enemy variety is increased. But yeah, I don't know. Cowed Weed, thanks so much for $2 super chat. Because God of War is overrated. Game is an 8 out of 10 at best. I will say, I can't say. I'm in no position to say because I haven't completed it. But I will be surprised if the 94 meta for me is justified. And if I do play and I think it's overrated, then I'll say it, and I'll love to speak to you both gents about what's happening with that, what you thought, to share those opinions. But yeah, it's different strokes for different folks. That's the thing, and you're gonna get a lot of that. But thank you so much for that super chat. Yeah, High on Life is a fun game. One thing that it does represent, I think it was in the it's not a God of War level game, but the natural high. It was a fun game that everyone loved to enjoy and sharing clips of more than God of War in particular. It's just the nature of the game, and it was just fun. And it's kind of changing. The metric is changing. That people's focus is moving away from your standard reviews more to content creators, to individuals, and people are starting to see that old magazine era of prestige of magazines and publications is disappearing. Well, whilst we wait for Dutch, hopefully everything is okay with him because he's still disappeared. Shout out to 404 people in the chat. Smash that like button. Let's talk to the first topic of the day. Playground game. They had some departures. I didn't think it was a massive issue, but the internet somehow did, and I want to talk to you about it. If you didn't know, Forza Horizon 5's creative director and several team members broke away from Playground Games to start their own endeavor. So creative director Mike Brown is working on a new premium open world game for consoles and PC. You can assume that means PlayStation as well. And then our goal, he says, for Maverick Games, the new studio with a weird logo but good name for the studio, which is what BG was saying as well, which I agreed with him. Significant blah 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 blah. Actively working on its new game. For players, we're already working on an exciting, ultra high quality title. We're building a home where everyone's encouraged to take risks. I love that. Be curious, be creative, be innovative, and be themselves. What are the chances of this coming out before Fable?
Joke, bastard.
That's Ace's joke.
He took his joke, man.
Ace said that, chat. You can clip this. Ace said Maverick's game will come out before Fable. Okay.
Man.
Ace is like, you took my joke about. I thought I heard that somewhere. It was you. Fuck. All my good ideas come from you. Is this a big deal? I saw people crying about it. Maybe creative playground games, they lose their creative directors, a big deal.
No. Listen, this guy, he did Forza Horizon 5. So like that's the 5th game. So obviously someone else did actually Ralph Fulton, he did the other 4, didn't he? And he's leading Fable right now. Listen, this is something that happens all the time in the industry. 10 people left out of hundreds of people that works for Playground Games to start their own studio. That doesn't mean it was bad blood. That doesn't mean Fable. Well, actually, they wasn't even working on Fable. They were working on Forza Horizon. That doesn't mean Playground is in trouble. It just means Mike Brown and some other Playground employees decided to, start their own studio. This happens all the time. I read something in 2021, some people from Sony Santa Monica, some people from Naughty Dog, from Call of Duty franchise, they left their respective studios to start up a AAA studio. So this happens all the time in the industry. Maybe because it's Xbox, and in the past we've heard some things, some trouble in some of their first party studios. But at the end of the day, because it's Xbox, people are going to blow it out of proportion, and that's what happened, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think that. Okay. I want to TTS a little bit. Hi, Kim. He used to work for Bloomberg. This guy was a journalist. He is, I don't know, give him more
a dickhead
attention than he. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Asa, clip that. I would never say that. Asa, wow.
Yeah, Asa, go. I love it. I love it. TTS.
Yeah, Asa can TTS. He's rawer than me, people. I cannot repeat what he said, but I guess I can. Why is Tykim acting like a dickhead? Like, he worked for Bloomberg. Like, I don't understand. Obviously, look, Jason Schreier, whatever he is a PlayStation fan. He hates Xbox. I'm sorry, no matter what you say to me, that's fact. So it's like Ty Kim, who's a drive-by troll, and he was one of the people saying, oh, what's going on? But she's entitled to do. We can do that. But just like we're entitled to say, what the fuck is wrong with you? People move all the time. People move studios all the time. People move from Naughty Dog. People move from, what did they say? Oh, no, it's the end that spells trouble for Naughty Dog when half their people left. No, where was Ty Kim? It was zip. No one said shit about that. So I'm just like, it happens all the time. If you're going to work on the 5th iteration of a racing series, you want them to work on the 6th one as well? They look at the mantra of the studio, Maverick. At some point, you get burnt out by it. You want high risk. You want to make a new project. It's not easy endeavor to make. It's not easy to turn down a good thing. But creativity is what drives a lot of people. Like, even at a very low level, me and my YouTube videos, like half the shit I could churn out for the algorithm every day, so we would get loads of subs. I can't do it. I physically cannot do it. I can't put a camera on myself. That's just me personally. Other people do it. That's absolutely fine. But I cannot do it unless I find a music track. I like it, put it on the timeline. I feel invigorated to edit this video. And I feel like I'm living on that timeline. That's just me. Now take that to trillion levels higher on game creation. And it is such a laborious task, but it's beautiful at the end of the day. The end results are amazing. You're creating whole worlds. Can't expect people to be enamored or stuck to the studio for the rest of their lives. Just common sense. People don't have it.
Flip side, though, like
I was just about to go on the flip side. But
go for it.
Yeah.
Speak it.
I was going to say that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is honky-dory at Playground Games, because sometimes if there's enough evidence to back it substantially, there may be some issues within the studio that confirms a high turnover. And I'll talk about the initiative, which I won't talk about it. I've talked about it ad nauseum, but that's another one where fast and furious departures from that studio. From that, you can glean, right, something is obviously not going right there. With this one, where a handful of people just leave following a creative director to create a new studio on a 5th iteration, they're going up on a high. I don't think it's a problem. But what were you going to say?
It's not the flip side that I was aiming for. The flip side for me is you've got these talented creators within Playground Games. I agree with you and that Playground Games are not in any trouble here. People leave, like, it's just attrition, they call it, and you've got some staff turnover. People are going to go and pursue the things that they want to do. But at the same time, these are talented people that work for Microsoft that no longer work for Microsoft. And it's wild that these conversations couldn't happen within Microsoft. If you want to set up a studio, if you've got ambitions for a project, if you want to pitch a new kind of game, you're surely pitching that to Microsoft first and foremost, because you're there and you want Microsoft's money. You don't want to go and fund out your own pocket if you don't have to. So either Microsoft have done what they did with Marvel and like just watched an opportunity walk by because they're oblivious to what's happening around them, or these people just didn't want to work for Microsoft anymore. So I absolutely agree that Playground Games, that studio is fine. They're going to carry on. They're going to churn out quality games. We'll see what Fable's like, and we can be very confident that Forza Horizon 6 is going to be brilliant because that studio knows what they're doing and they've still got enough people that know what they're doing. But why these people don't want to make their new project for Microsoft and for Xbox, I think is a valid question that people can ask.
That's a great, but what do you want to say to that? Is there possibly a reason why maybe something like deeper? I mean, he's right though. It's a hard task to walk.
Well, you have to think about it from that standpoint. That's a good question. Or is it? I mean, who knows at this point? I mean, but sometimes people maybe they don't like Ralph Fulton. Maybe I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's not a Microsoft thing, or maybe it is, like you say. But maybe it's this. You know what? I want my own studio, because I've seen people that's perfectly happy at their job, but maybe it's a pride thing, it's an ego thing. If I can have my own and this be labeled my studio, I get to name it what I want to. Maybe that's something, you know. So you never know.
You shouldn't underestimate that. Bungie made it clear, even despite the eye-wateringly high figure for a singular studio, they said, we want our independence. That was the price that Sony bought them for. And maybe, you know, that you cannot downplay that. You're right. A lot of people...
I mean, you just never know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's not much there to go on. I understand what you're saying, though. So that's a great point, and we don't know what the full story is. But ultimately, it could be a myriad of reasons. This is a time, though, where Xbox will want to hold on to talent because it's a rare commodity now.
And let me say this. We've seen people on successful podcasts, no beef with their podcast, but they wanted to do their own thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've seen it. Like, yo, look, I still love those guys, but I wanted to try to build my own studio. Well, you know, my own podcast, my own channel. And it's nothing personal. It's just sometimes that happens, you know. You know, so that's all I'm going to say. Like, maybe Mike Brown feels that, you know, he's a great leader. Forza Horizon 5 was amazing. So I want to do another game in another genre, you know, and maybe they didn't want him to do another game in another genre. You know, they want him to do another racing game. And he said, hey, you know what? yeah, I want to do something else. So
No, absolutely. Yeah. There's so much value in that. I could see myself if I were in the industry working for other people and like, you know what, I want to do it my own way. I could look at his wording. We're building a studio to be creative, innovative, risk taking. They really want actively people who want to take risks, and that's not obviously something big publishers will always want. It depends. And you know, but you're absolutely right. I think it's a bit overblown though, or some of the reactions were overblown. Dorian Gray, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. He goes, also Playground was purchased. Who is to say they had an incentive to stay around for a while, finish their current work and then leave? Absolutely, Dorian. Why not? I mean, otherwise,
you know that Bungie had that, didn't we? Bungie definitely went to Sony with like a 2-year get a bonus kind of scheme in the contract. Playground could have had something very similar. So
yeah, absolutely. But we don't know much about it. Very quickly, the next topic, which I found quite surprising, the percentage. I know it's not terribly exciting. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll make it exciting. Almost 90% of games sold in the UK are digital. Asa, what? 90% digital? All those people celebrate box sales every time Christopher Drink puts them up. Are they looking a little bit stupid now?
The people celebrating sales always did. I don't know what to tell you on that one. I was actually surprised more so at the number of physical games that do still sell, because those numbers, if you scrape the surface away, it includes like mobile and crap like that. The actual numbers in the console space for physical to digital was 40% physical, 60% digital. And that excludes, obviously, most of the revenue is coming from like microtransactions and DLC and all the rest of it. But if you just look at like day one purchases of games, there are still 40% of people in the UK getting stuff delivered or going to actual shops. And I don't understand those people.
A lot of the mainstream like casuals, they won't buy a digital. They'll just go to the 3 game shops that are there, or Amazon. I think they'll end up buying. I'm surprised though. That 60% digital is pretty high though. Still it's a big change. It's a big change. What do you think about that? Do you think that's just like a game?
I think it's the time that we're living in, man. You know, it's 2022. Everything is digital. You know, everybody's all about convenience. And who wants to go to a store and buy a game? I mean, I don't download the damn game. Listen, I remember when I went all digital in fall of 2017, right? I'm a big NBA 2K fan, so I was waiting for the midnight, launch at my local GameStop. And it just hit me like a bag of bricks. Like, what the hell are you doing? If you don't just buy this damn game digitally, because I would have to go get the physical copy, then I had to install it. You know, that would take another 45 minutes to an hour. I said, just install the game right now. And I went full digital since that day. So maybe people were just like, yo, man, look, everything is on your phone. You know, there's nothing you buy on your phone that's physical at this point, right? You don't buy any physical stuff, or like maybe you get a physical card, like a Google Play or Apple card or whatever. But everything is digital now. So people, I think we're in the times where physical media itself is on its way out. Like, what's still physical? It's like
you're gonna have the hashtag forever physical people after you dirt.
Man, listen, I'm sorry. Listen. This is not us. This is evolution. This is life. This is the world. It is what it is. So, I'm not surprised by this at all. And if it's 60-40 now, within the next 3 or 4 years, it's really going to be 90%, and that doesn't even include mobile at that point. It's going to be 100 eventually, because I think they will stop making physical copies soon. Now, let's say soon. The next 5 years or so, 6, 7, 8 years.
It wouldn't surprise me. There'll always be a crowd that likes their collector's edition and physical stuff, but they're like, oh, game preservation. Like, I've got better priorities than to preserve old games that on digital media, physical media. That's not for me. I don't understand. It hasn't been. Only games I buy physical are PlayStation games, because their prices are shite and they can't even get their codes online, because like Xbox games, other vendors will sell those codes. So just like, I don't know. It just seems like the tides are changing.
See, let me say this right quick, guys. It's like with music. When music became 100% digital, streaming, or downloadable, that was fine. You know why? Because if you had some old stuff you wanted to hear, those options were still available all over Spotify. You know, any old Michael Jackson song from the 80s, any old song from the 60s, they're still there.
Yeah.
I can still listen to them however I want to in my vehicle, in my home. I can still listen to these songs. They didn't, you know, like they just stopped making them physically. So it's going to be the same with video games. As long as these games are still available, which they will be hopefully throughout the years, I think most people wouldn't even care anymore, bro.
Yeah.
Most people, but like you said, there are collectors.
There are some games, though, that you can't even get digitally. That will appreciate in price. I'm trying to buy the Transformers War for Cybertron game. That can't get that. Like, unless it's physical. At all. Yeah, it can't. So there's that counter to that. Like, well, hold on, because the game license isn't available or whatever. What happens then? I want to play it, but I have to download it, pirate it, or something like that. Which I don't play on PC that much anymore. I'm all on Xbox now, so. I don't know. It's not ideal, but there are ways around it. But yeah, it's interesting. Well, I'm not going to talk about sales for too long whilst this poll goes. I'm all digital. I will say this next point. Fonz got it from the Forever Physical people, and he tweeted out #Forever Digital. Well done, Fonz. Just stir the hornet's nest. This next topic also stirred the hornet's nest, and I loved it. The poetic justice here. Neil Druckmann, the man at Naughty Dog, interested in Elden Ring's approach to story. Hold on, people. You guys, just a week before he tweeted that out, were bemoaning Elden Ring's non-story. They were like rinsing it, like God of War tells a proper story because it's got cutscenes. This game tells a story but it's cutscenes. And I'm not even against that point, but I am a proponent for the world telling its story. It's why I like Returnal, even though it has cutscenes. But the world in Returnal was telling a story. The world in Elden Ring, the world in Bloodborne. It's a bloody PlayStation exclusive before you come at me. And the world was telling its story. It lingered on, like, to me to this day, that story feeling. And Neil Druckmann said he's interested in Elden Ring story. And Cory Barlog is also that. What's happening, people? PlayStation guys, you need to get rid of your sitting there having popcorn for ages. And Guardians of the Galaxy does this as well. Like, for ages, you're not playing the game. You're actually watching cutscenes, which is fine. But this organic storytelling, sure, are you a fan of it, or are you a fan of like just the old cutscene formula?
I'm a fan of old style cutscenes, to be honest with you. just tell me the story. I don't want to, you know. That's just me.
Why? I expected a different answer, but okay.
I'm sorry.
That's a pony's confirmed. No, just kidding. That's a different story method. I am all. Yeah, look, Carolina says he or she's in for a more balance. He likes both. Asa, are you? What do you think of Neil Druckmann saying he's interested in Elden Ring's approach to storytelling?
Yeah, there's definitely a balance. There's not a correct answer on how to tell a story in a game because there are multiple ways that can work. I think it would be getting way ahead of ourselves to assume that Neil Druckmann wants to make a game that doesn't have any cutscenes in it. I think it's more the case that Elden Ring does certain things very well, and he's wondering how he can also embrace that side of storytelling. It doesn't mean there won't be cutscenes. You can still use the world to tell additional bits of a story and whatever, like to have a really deep setting and tell a story within it. If you look at, there's probably loads of games like BioShock uses really good world storytelling, but it's not like Elden Ring. It's not vague and opaque storytelling. It's in your face, but the world is brilliant. Mass Effect, loads that you can find in the world to expand on the story and tell you more about what's going on and what everything is. So I expect he's talking more along those lines, to tell the type of game that he's good at with the direction that we're used to from his studio, but to embrace a little bit more of the world building of Elden Ring as well. And that's a good thing.
I think It's a great thing. I think it was music to my ears, because if Corey and Naughty Dog, take on board and harness this, not harness, there's no fixed way of telling this kind of dynamic story, but these guys are expert world builders. So if you don't rely, all that means to me is you'll have even more expertly designed worlds that will tell the story, not heavily relying on cutscenes. So like, I saw some PlayStation guys like, oh, you're killing, Neil Druckmann's killing Naughty Dog, you killed Joel, now you're going to kill storytelling. I was like, what the flip? People are stupid. Like, trust these guys to tell the story. Yeah, you didn't like the story decisions, but the general idea of what they're doing, it's pushing things forward, because that's harder to do, to build that game world that is an extension of the story you're telling or integral part of it. So I think it's really good. So I'm really grateful for that. Dutch has disappeared. So I don't think we've got to...
He's going to be back shortly. He has said recently he will be back shortly. So carry on.
Oh, okay, fine. So as long as everything is okay with him, but he's going to be skipping a few topics as we head into the big one, the events one as well.
Virtual reality. Okay.
But you wish. One day that'll be big news. But potential big news. Before we do that, actually, sorry, your baby father, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. The past few years of lockdown, social distancing, and working from home really pushed the digital movement.
Facts,
it's the future.
Bro. Facts.
100%.
Yep, absolutely.
Also,
I even think about that. Hey, he's absolutely right.
Yeah, you're great point there, and I think that hyper accelerated a lot of things, including the retail space. You had one of the was it the Dragon's Den? What's that guy? Theo Paphitis is really into his commercial retail space. As soon as COVID hit, said that's it. Point of no return. The retail space has changed. This will make it like from now on. Although I will say, I think people really want to go back to physical, like go to the shops. It is busy in London. Like people really yearn for human contact. So I think the metaverse push is dead or dying or reevaluated considerably because you hardly hear it now. You couldn't even, Microsoft wouldn't shut the fuck up about metaverse. Do you hear it now? I don't hear it. I don't hear metaverse at all. Deafening silence. What's going on? So whilst I agree with you, baby, it has pushed that forward in the gaming space. Generally, in the retail space, you never know, man. People might come back for whatever reason. Yeah. Blancro, here's a hug. I'm hugging you right now. But yeah, so the industry is changing. And part of that industry changing could be a future where Ubisoft doesn't exist. What?
Man.
Did you press the wrong button?
Celebrate! That was way too celebratory a sound, but I need something a bit more darker than that. Was very happy. It's like, yeah.
I was very happy, guys. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, they fucking deserve it. No, it doesn't. They don't deserve it. Okay. Well, for people who don't know, Ubisoft is in a state of turmoil. Is that all hyperbole? No, it's not. Do you know why? I can justify that. When Yves Guillemot, how do you pronounce this French guy's name?
I cannot. You're on your own on that one, buddy. I can't help you with that one.
Yves Guillemot. No, Guillemot. I don't know how you pronounce his name. He's told his staff, it's on you. I'm paraphrasing here, but it really is. It's on you. The future of the industry is on you. Of Ubisoft is on you. That you need to pull your sleeves up and get to doing what you're doing. Otherwise, you or the company's in trouble. To which I say, what a horrendous message from the leadership to its staff. Like, for real, I'm sorry. Did the staff have a hand in some of the most disgusting... Look, not disgusting, that's too much hyperbole, but just ridiculous decisions and trying to... Did they have it? Oh, let's just recycle the shit out of all these games all the time. Like, what? It's you. Like, you didn't take the risks. You constantly recycled it to the point where it became the Ubisoft formula. Now you're here trying to get your staff to say you fix up or piss off. I'm sure it's not. Okay, obviously me being a little bit extra there. Asa, be the voice of reason. What do you think?
It's worse than you think there, because what you were saying there kind of implies that that the Ubisoft formula is the problem, and Ubisoft will be okay if they like move back into a bit more like risk and diversity. But they're doing the opposite. And not necessarily, like, it might be the sensible thing to do, but it's not good for us as people consuming their games, particularly. They've cancelled 7 unannounced projects. They've delayed Skull and Bones, but that's a miniature minor side piece. The thing that they've said though, yes, he's come out and said that thing that you mentioned there about that it's up to the staff. They're going to have to hit their deadlines if they want the company to survive or whatever, which comes across terribly. I don't know if there's been some unfortunate paraphrasing or what his actual wording was, but if that is an accurate reflection of what he said, then yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
It is.
But what they're doing going forwards though is they're leaning into their mega brands, they call them. They see the gaming future being essentially games that go onto subscription services, and then a massive gap in the middle where a lot of the best games currently reside, and then mega brands like Assassin's Creed and like Fortnite or whatever. And they don't see the space in between as worth trying to pursue anymore. And it's based on Mario, the Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope, whatever it was called, and Just Dance or something like that, underperformed for them. So they're like, right, we need to chop this middle section. We need to focus on Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, or we're just going to die. And they might be right. Like, it is a difficult space in gaming at the moment. It's been a difficult space before. It got a miniature revival over the last couple of years with the likes of like EA were really surprised that Jedi Fallen Order performed well. And there was a miniature revival of the AA space, and it was looking good and wholesome for a while. But then this use from Ubisoft and a couple of other things that have been going on kind of make that future look a little uncertain. And that's one of the most exciting spaces in gaming. So I hope that he's horribly wrong. He's making terrible decisions focusing on mega brands, and actually this other tier of gaming will thrive and prosper going forwards, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, end of AA, no focus on just the big Assassin's Creed and Far Cry's. Do you think that's the right play?
Me personally, I still want most games to be AAA, but that's just not the world we live in today. The risk, these companies don't want to risk making a brand new IP with a $200 million budget and the game sells 1-2 million. This is not, the risk isn't there. And Ubisoft, they have a couple games as a service. The Division 1, it was fine. Part 2, I don't think did so well.
Nah.
They have Rainbow Six that's doing fine, but it's just not enough. So they're betting on their big franchises, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. This Avatar game, this game has to hit for them. It's a huge game for them, and it has to be a hit. Excuse me. If it's not a hit, I don't know. But this is the industry that we're in nowadays. Even when I look at PlayStation is doing a lot of games as a service. Spider-Man, that's going to be a hit, but they're hesitant to do sequels. Like, look at Days Gone 2. Or new IP, they're doing a lot of remakes, which is not as expensive as doing a brand new IP. So Ubisoft being in trouble, I hate it because I actually like some of the games. I enjoy the Far Cry series. I obviously enjoy Splinter Cell, even though they haven't made one of those in years. And because of this new world that we in the gaming industry, we haven't even had a sequel to Splinter Cell. And I don't think we're going to get it unless they sell it off.
I think they'll be teasing it. I think Ubisoft will be teasing it. I think they're making
a remake. I think they're doing a remake, but I mean, this is a new Splinter Cell. So it's unfortunate, man, because like I mentioned, I like Ubisoft, but it's rough out here, man. Not too long ago, we heard rumors that they want to get acquired. They that's a huge acquisition because they have like 20,000 employees or something like that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's rough out there, bro. This just isn't the same video game world that we used to live in. I mean, this is not the 90s, the 80s, where 8 people made a AAA video game. These games take millions and millions of dollars, and if you don't have that games as a service money coming in monthly and daily and weekly, sometimes these games don't make it unless they sell like some crazy amount, like 25, 30 million. And Ubisoft games, they're not doing that. So I hope they're able to, be fine, because I do like them. But hey, man, it is what it is.
I think if they're going to solely focus on the AAA space, then they will die, because ultimately those games will have a half-life. Those IPs have a half-life. Clark Osborne says Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in the
I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just, I don't know what's happening with that. How many times do you think you can strongly rely on bloody Assassin's Creed? Now, how many Assassin's Creeds they've got? They've got the Mirage. They've got the Red in China. They've got another. It's like it's almost like what CDPR are doing, I guess, in a way, but they're small.
Hey guys, and those games are taking longer and longer to develop. Like, we didn't get an Assassin's Creed game last year, so it's like they're massive games, 100-hour games. I finished Valhalla. That game was long as hell, and it's just taking longer and longer to develop. So I don't know.
But I don't see what they bring to the space. What innovation are they bringing to the space? With Immortals Phoenix Rising, they just copied Breath of the Wild and put their own flavor on it. They're copying other first-person shooters and other multiplayer spaces on there. They're regurgitating Assassin's Creed. If you don't focus on the AA space, which, like Ace, I agree, is the more exciting space, then I think you will end up dying, because your studio has no value. Ultimately, you're just defunct in terms of innovation.
I wish that was the case, though, guys, and I hope that is the case, like I was saying. But they're looking at the numbers and they're saying we need to do the opposite. We need to ditch that space entirely. The only thing that actually works and makes money for us is the Assassin's Creed and the Far Cry and the Tom Clancy stuff. So
they don't want to risk, right? So they don't want to risk, right? They don't want to risk on new stuff. Like they stick with what we know, right? I mean, that's.
But they're creatively defective. The whole publishing outfit doesn't have enough creatives there. That publishing outfit is doomed to failure if they can't evolve. It will take longer. They will stretch it out with these big AAA successes. But no one's going to give a shit about Ubisoft apart from the fans that care about Assassin's Creed again and again. I'm sorry. I think that I frankly wouldn't care. I would rather that someone buy the IP. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Oh, Dutch, you're back. Someone might have us on a phone or somewhere. But someone, I'd rather Microsoft or anyone, someone buy the IPs individually. If it goes all wrong for them, like Yves Guillemot says, then maybe they will fucking fail. And what happens next? Well, just in time. I hope everything is okay, Dutch. You're okay. Welcome back. How are you?
I am good. Yeah, I'm good. How's everybody else doing? I'm good.
Good. Better that you're here.
Good. Ready to jump in. Ready to talk about games.
Yeah, just very quickly to bring you up to speed. We're talking about Ubisoft. You're talking about Yves Guillemot, I don't know, I'm pronouncing his name, telling the staff there, like, roll up your sleeves, fix up. This is make or break time. It's all on you. The future of Ubisoft is on you. I'm not exaggerating what he's saying. And we're discussing that. What is the future of Ubisoft? What's your take on this whole thing?
Yeah, to be honest, it makes sense with Ubisoft, and I've caught the end of that part there where you're talking about kind of all the mainline franchises, and the mainline franchise, they do need to innovate a bit. They need to kind of innovate, but also keep the core audience, which is one of the hard parts about having a long-standing franchise. You can't piss off your current fan base by changing it drastically, but the only way to gain a new fan is by innovating and getting new things in. So it's a fine balance. You need to do both. You need to kind of keep what is core to what the core fans love, but also innovate on top of that to make sure you can win new fans over. But then we've seen the opposite. Then we've seen Prince of Persia in God knows how long of sitting there in staleness. We've seen Good and Evil 2's just vanished off the face of the planet. Avatar's had a delay until some point next year or this year. I don't know. no idea. And then we've got the Star Wars title, which is in there somewhere. I think the issue we've got on the two big Disney side titles is also going to be something that he'll be getting in the neck, because they released Avatar: Shape of Water to critical acclaim. It is like the 4th highest selling film of all time, probably go up the ranks as well as weeks go on. And they didn't have the game ready in time to launch with it.
James Cameron apparently was pissed about that. I was on Mav's show, and apparently, you correct me, I don't know, there's hearsay, but James Cameron actually said, don't ship the game like this. He just wasn't happy with the game, and wasn't happy with the fact that game is now... I mean, the game's going to have no impact the longer this gets delayed. So,
it's a massive thing, and this is an issue Disney will be saying as well. They'll be like, listen, like, you've got these huge IPs for us. 2 of the biggest in terms of monetary revenue that come in for us is both Avatar and Star Wars. Yeah. Like, those things make us serious money. See, the games need to be right. And I think the fact that none of those have released in an orderly time frame and there's no updates on it, Disney will be starting to get a little bit antsy, and Eves will be feeling the pressure on those specifically. Now, internal games like Good and Evil and things like that, he's not going to be that worried about, because, again, for all we know, one of the 4 titles plus that have been cancelled might have been Prince of Persia. It might have been Good and Evil 2. We don't know that yet, because unfortunately the titles aren't there. All they've said is mainline franchises are staying, and that's what we're focusing on. Obviously, they're not going to can Avatar, and they're not going to can Star Wars, because they've got...
They did say unannounced games, though. They did say unannounced games, though. So
but they've got contracts with Disney for those. But I don't think, even saying if unannounced games, they were never announced to release by a certain point, and all they announced was the fact that they were in development. We've seen across the industry, even though games are starting development, doesn't mean they'll ever release. So the likelihood is if they don't see improvements quickly on titles that are in development, they will be canned. And I wouldn't blame them for it either, because it's splurging money. And I said the same about Skull and Bones, which has just become a joke at this point. It's like 6 delays and counting. Wow. 6 delays.
6 delays
from actual announcing release dates. Every time they've delayed those release dates. So it originally started thinking back in 2017. They announced 2018 release date, and then they moved it again to 2019, and then moved it again to 20, and then 22, and now here we are. And they've delayed it again. But those are official Avatar release dates. And it's
gameplay in engine on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Avatar apparently is actually pretty decent on the gameplay front and the world and everything like that. I've heard nothing about Star Wars, but Avatar is pretty decent actually, and that shouldn't be too far along, and it possibly make the end of the year.
Is it first person?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know.
I don't know why. I don't know the third person this one, but okay.
Yeah.
But
in terms of Skull and Bones, it comes a point of Skull and Bones as well, is they're saying, okay, it's going to release in beta for the remainder of the year soon, and then 2024 it's going to release at some point. But it's financial year 24, so it could be any point in 24.
That one was especially fun though, because the way that Skull and Bones played out, they thought it was nearly ready to release, and they let a load of people play it, and the load of people said, "No, this is terrible. This is terrible." So don't know if
they were ready to release it.
We know a lot of, and there's a few of our guys that have played it, and they were just like, "Don't even ask." Like it was
bad.
Yeah. And not just on a technical standpoint, from what they originally promised. And like, yes, people are saying this is a technical test, but this was a game that was apparently a couple of months out from delivery.
Yeah, that's really bad.
And these technical tests are the entirety of the game, essentially, for you to play through. They're not just like a slice. They're not a vertical slice of it. It's not a demo. Technical tests, alphas, betas, or what is essentially releasing, minus a couple of kind of refinements by that point. But no, it was nowhere near. And it comes a point, though, from Eve's perspective as well, is how can we actually justify spending any more money on the development of this game? Like, it's now become like they would have to make a substantial amount of profit at this point for a game that's been delayed 6 times to even break even.
I think at this point it's safe to say it's an L they'll push out the door because they've lost enough money on it. I don't think.
And this is on Skull and Bones' side. For me, it's a case of even if it's in a terrible state right now, delaying it until next year and hoping it does well then. By that point, no one's going to care. It's going to be delayed that many times. The amount of people that were bothered about it have already cancelled their pre-orders because we've seen that already. People have just said, "Nah, I'm sick of this. This is like 6 times over, and I've had to pre-order it. God knows how many times." So I'm done. And you don't blame them. So what's them to stop cutting the losses now? Release it like it sounds daft, but release it like Sea of Thieves did in its initial approach, and just say, "Listen, this is what we've got so far. Put it out. Let a core team work on refining it, fixing it whilst it's out in the public." Don't release it at $70 because it isn't a $70 game. Just release it like $40 or something like that. And then just refine it as it goes on, make it better, make that improvements, have it as a games as a service game instead. Just fix it. At this point, you're going to have saved your blushes. And for one time in the time in history where I say just get a game out, this game just needs to be out now. It's been far too long and it'll be costing them far more in development, staff wages, like dev time, Q&A, beta testing, like all that stuff's going to be costing them fortunes.
Well, Ubisoft are one of the rare studios where they have pushed out a game and then after the fact really done a lot of work to rectify it. And I mean substantial work. For Honor, for instance, they moved from P2P to dedicated service, changed that substantially. That's a big move. The same with, I think, with Rainbow Six as well. Siege, they did that. These aren't, and they were keeping an eye on it and doing it. So that's a good idea that, look, you've taken enough losses there. You've shown that you can fix them after the fact. If there's enough of an audience, perhaps it's time. But I still think it's Ubisoft's problem. Their problem they made by focusing on their formula, which has become really a bit of a joke. Even my Redfall video, I end up, the Ubisoft formula is something I use to disparage the formula every time I seem to make a video to explain some kind of rote gameplay design. So Ubisoft, Yves Guillemot, sorry, Tom, I know I'm butchering the French, but if you long term, if you can ride this storm, you have some serious questions to ask about the future viability. And I don't think AAA is the answer. I think AA is where it's at. And speaking of AA,
yes.
Another game that I actually personally really enjoyed, possibly because I was danked, but I really enjoyed it, was Callisto Protocol, and that game did not sell well. So today or yesterday, we just found out that game has well below estimations. I think they were thinking of selling 5 million or something. So I thought that's a bit high, no? Did you play Callisto Protocol? Were you a fan of this game?
Yes, and I finished it, and I enjoyed it.
What do you think? You like the game, right? So
I enjoyed it, yeah. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a good game, too.
The gameplay is a little tricky at first, but once you get the dodging mechanics, it's a pretty solid game. I enjoyed it. It's a little disappointing that it didn't sell well. Like you said, they were expecting 5 million. It hasn't even hit 2 million yet. That's unfortunate for them. It just goes to show, after you see that they said it was $162 million budget. Damn. Somebody lost a lot of money if this game.
That's just sad though.
Yeah, it is, because listen, man, I don't a solid game like that. It wasn't great, but I thought it was good enough. It was a solid game. I would love to see a sequel. They mentioned before they were going to have some DLC. I don't know if this hurts the DLC. I'm not sure, but you don't like to see a solid AAA game fail like this. And we want some of these AAA games. I do love some AA games like High on Life, but I also do want the occasional AAA quote unquote banger, right? Yeah. And this was one of those types of games, but it is what it is, man. I guess something about the game, it released kind of poor. The Metacritic wasn't very good. It was buggy. They gimped the Xbox and the PC version. So this game might have benefited for about another 6 months in the oven, but my personal opinion, they wanted to get it out before the Dead Space remake.
100%.
So, that's it's unfortunate, but damn, it is what it is, bro.
It is what it is, and it goes to show the risks involved in this space and why AA's perhaps are vulnerable. Ultimately, if the quality mark was there, though, I do agree. I do think this game would have a different fate. I don't know why the 5 million was very high. There was a lot of hype for it beforehand, but like. I mean, 5 million Dutch, is that a bit high? What did you play this game? Did you play this?
I haven't played it yet. It was on my list of games to play, but then I saw the issues technically with the game before launch, and it went on the back burner for a second. I will get around to it. I will play it because I want to play an alternative kind of realization of what Dead Space would be before or after Dead Space comes out, the remake, which looks unbelievable. But the game itself, I think it's really hard for the developers because at a costing of $165 million for development, which is significant. We're talking
without
like almost
marketing.
almost Last of Us 2 scale and Halo scale. And Halo had its issues, but that's the budget we're talking about here, like significant high-end AAA status, because they were like sitting at about 200 million. When you're talking about Callisto Protocol, which is the first game they've ever developed, having a budget of 165 million, that is a significant outlay for
165 million. That makes it AAA, surely.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah,
definitely.
And that's the issue. That's the issue with it. Is it's
Where did they get
being
165 million?
Yeah, it's the budgeting for that, and ultimately it was down to a couple of factors as to why it's underperformed so far. I think primarily it was down to the technical issues, and again literally every review that had spoke about it, which is why it reviewed quite poorly. If it hadn't have been for the technical issues, which didn't even get resolved at launch, it resolved steadily over the months. I think it would have reviewed higher, which would have had a more positive effect on certain people's buying habits. But then, of course, I think even when you look at the advertisement for it, if it wasn't for the likes of Twitter and things like that, where we'd seen it, I hadn't seen it on any TV spots. I hadn't seen it.
I saw
on
it at the movie theater though. Dutch.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, absolutely. And in like the trailers, it was there, bro. It was there.
That's quite big.
Yeah.
So they've spent a lot. But you're saying 165 million doesn't even include the marketing. So
they said that's not even including the marketing. Yeah.
So then that'll be probably close to maybe 180, 190 million.
Yeah.
That's significant. But then you've got the opposite side. And I saw a lot of reviewers talking about, as you mentioned, once you've got a hang of the dodge mechanic, then it's good. But then a lot of reviewers that I saw said, well, once you've got a hang of the dodge mechanics, then the game is pointless because you're just going left, right, hit, left.
I don't think reviewers are. No, that's not correct.
There was a few that I saw that didn't like the fact that it became, once they'd got the hang of that dodge, then it became almost too.
Yeah, the reviewers don't know what they're talking about. That's not the dynamic in that game. You can even have a melee build. A weapon build. You can build it fully weapon. You get enough ammo. You're going to be shotgun blasting with stasis, your whatever thingy effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think the reviewers got that right.
I would say
a lot of reviewers did say that.
Yeah. And you know why?
Overall, I would say. I was going to say I think the vast majority of it, though, kind of simply boiled down to people's high expectations as to what Dead Space was. Coming into this thinking this is going to be like a new revision of what the Dead Space universe is, and look at all the brutality and look at all the different kind of deaths that you can go through, and look how like brutal it is and how gory it is, and people's expectations are absolutely through the roof. And nobody's mentioned, like, on a negative side, just how pretty the game is, because it's an unbelievably pretty game.
Beautiful.
Like,
very well,
game.
highly detailed, great on that side. But I think mechanically, and then a few people had a few issues with the story as well. I think mechanically and the story wise, I think it was kind of an average. It's kind of an average story from what I've seen. It's not like nothing mind blowing, but it's okay.
Nah, it's not mind blowing story. But it has some beats that are really good, like at the end of that, offering spoilers. It's a good first game, but when you talk about the budget, that is something different. Asa, we were talking about this in the AA space, thinking about that. But this is a AAA title.
By budget, it is. Yeah, people have their own like varying definitions of what AAA actually means. I always found that Callisto Protocol, I mean, it's a horror game, which is limiting your audience initially in the first place. Some people love horrors, but it's definitely a smaller audience than a Call of Duty. And it's only supposed to be, you've played it, so you know this better than I, but it's supposed to be like 8-10 hours long.
Yeah, it's not
around 10,
it's not
15
a
hours.
long.
Yeah.
It was 70 quid in December when there were a lot of games to play. Which
Way
is
too
like
high.
I'm
Way too
interested
high.
in the game, but it's not that high on my list, and it's not 70 quid high on my list. So I don't know, difficult space, but
That price point is a great point, because anyone, even if you're a fan of that game, no one can recommend it at that price. No one. It's like $30-$40 or 40 quid. Even 40 quid, I'm thinking, is pushing it. But if you really will enjoy it, I would say it's a game that might end up doing well on Game
time,
Pass.
guys, where we will say certain games like this are prime for a subscription service on their first release.
And irony of that, though, because these
Any subscription.
I know where you're going, guys.
I know where you're going.
I don't even mean just Game Pass. I mean in general. So we know Sony had ultimately the marketing for this. They had people helping out with the haptic feedbacks and things like that for the game. Ultimately, it would have made more sense, especially on the PlayStation side of things, to include this within their subscription service. Now, it's a third-party game, so for them, it's not really something that they have to worry about too much. Like, it goes in the subscription service. It's a bonus to them. The game still sells 70 elsewhere, but they've got a much larger audience playing it. Well, that in itself would have benefited the studio. It would have had more eyes on, and the issues may have been resolved a bit quicker.
So
the problem, of course, is that it wasn't. There is certain things, certain games that benefit from sub services at launch, and certain that don't need it, don't require it. It's not to say that they won't benefit from it. You can release a God of War, and it's not to say that doesn't benefit from a sub service, but
This one
it doesn't require it to be successful.
yeah, there you go. Look, Dutch, I'm angling at the console war angle here because I'm like, Dutch, I like to talk that shit. But come on, the guys were saying, they were laughing at so before the game released, they're like, our game's not really suited for Game Pass. And, single player games have limited utility in that kind of service. Well, not only would you got a fat stack paid by Sony if they had the appetite, or if Microsoft, there was no marketing, but you could have had more eyes on. If the game is as good as I said it was, more people would have been talking about it, more people would have been playing it. I reckon it would have done better.
That's what happened with High on Life. A lot of people was playing it. Word of mouth got around how good and funny the game is, and it blew up.
Exactly. That organic marketing. Ace, I can see you pursing your lips. Talk to me.
It's not. If you're looking at it from the Callisto Protocol's perspective, of course, if someone's going to give them a fat enough bag to put that on a subscription service, anything makes sense if you give it enough money. But if you're Microsoft or Sony or anybody else, but those are the main subscription services, right? If you're Microsoft and you've got Game Pass, and this company's coming around saying, look, we know we're not going to sell as many of the game if we go on Game Pass. You can say that there's numbers to contradict that, but realistically, if you're giving it away to people on Game Pass on Xbox and PC, you're cutting the sales. So that Game Pass deal, no matter how many more people are going to play it, is probably going to need to cover like $100 million for this game. That's steep. Like, is it worth that to Microsoft? No, for them, it obviously is. But for Microsoft, is that good shopping? Does that make any sense? Is Game Pass viable? Spending $100 million on games that people don't play?
The deafening silence of 2022. It would have helped both. Microsoft Callisto Protocol had a lot of hype. Xbox guys would have gone behind it as opposed to attacking it now. We might have had ray tracing, which we don't have still.
Hey, you know what, guys? Let me say this right quick. At the end of the day, though, I see Striking Distance. I believe that's the name of the studio.
Yeah.
I see the talent there, bro. They're very talented. And it's unfortunate that this game didn't work out. I hope they can drop another game, but right now it's not looking too great for them. And they're a talented studio, so I hope I don't know, man. As a gamer, I don't want to see a talented studio like that.
I would suck. I would love a sequel. I would love a sequel,
bro. I would love and they actually set it up for a sequel if you finish it.
The thing is I think
Absolutely,
for a sequel, and it sounds daft, but for a sequel, this is a brand new studio. They've got a significant, and this is where a lot of that money could have been plowed into as well. This is essentially a startup studio. It's the first thing they've made, especially on this space. The sequel itself might not cost anywhere near that to create because they've already got the assets, the engine down, the staff are all embedded, everything's done. So the actual cost of creating a sequel could be substantially lower than the 165 plus that was spent on this one. So it could be a case of whoever's funded this. I've forgotten the name. Was it Tencent or somebody or someone along those lines? Crafton funded it. Was it
Crafton? Yeah.
It could be that they just work with somebody else to get the funding for it, or they look for investors in the studio. It's not to say that it's the end of the day.
That's a good
Crafton,
point. Yeah.
No doubt. I was going to say Crafton, no doubt. If they're getting a cut from any sales in the future, I think they don't care either. To be honest, if they don't have to pay for it, but they still get a slice of it, I think they'd probably say, "Okay, let somebody else help you make it." But we're still getting a slice.
The studio did. That's a good point. That's a great point. That the hard work's done doesn't mean that the cost of a sequel are prohibitively expensive. Now the groundwork's done. They did rely on mocaps, PlayStation's mocap studios for that stuff. But I would say in an arena where talent is really sought after, if it's make or break time, or it's really the death knell for striking distance, it would be ripe for an acquisition of that talent. Would be the smart play. They're very talented. So someone might be eyeing them up. If a Saudi outfit, they're looking to buy up everything. They might fund them. There may be, and it wouldn't be a bad bet if you fund them. Anyone who wants to fund them, if you have faith in the quality that they delivered, I think they could deliver a great.
I'm going to say it on an alternative as well. Is we've seen the likes of Crystal Dynamics, for instance, being farmed out to help with development of studios. It wouldn't be a far stretch in other studios kind of not being farmed out, but in a negotiation to help them with ironing out some of the issues with the engine. Now, as far as I'm aware, they're using Unreal Engine for this as well. So Unreal
not
Engine
even 5.
So ideally, what they'd be looking to do is potentially not even speak to Microsoft with regards acquisition, but speak to Microsoft with regards, can we have help from the likes of the Coalition who know this engine inside out? Or someone at Epic, can we work collaboratively with them in order to iron out some of these engine issues that we've had, which has caused technical problems? And it's a case of just ironing out these things, or speaking or collaborating with other studios, which is what both Sony and Xbox do substantially for every title that's released. Like Naughty Dog have usually about 10 to 15 secondary studios working on them collaboratively for the Last of Us titles. God of War usually has 3 or 4 external studios helping them. The Coalition usually has lots of studios, and 343 the same. Every major studio, there's a lot of work you can do internally, but sometimes you need that external eye to be able to kind of iron out or fix problems. Because sometimes when you're all stuck in this little vacuum of doing your own thing all the time, you can't see some of the issues that you're causing. And having that additional opinion can help fix things. And I think going forward for striking distance, that's the best approach. Collaborate with another studio.
We're seeing a lot of that. Even with Redfall, we saw the id Software. They came into on the gunplay. They came in to talk to them, consulted. Obviously, and that kind of. You're right though. When you're stuck in this little echo chamber of your own stuff, it'd be good to get external eyes on it. I think that's the way forward for striking distance. Let me hit these super chats. Hagi Channy, shout out to you. Good to see you, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Because Avatar needs a bag from PlayStation Plus or Game Pass. Wonder if Ubisoft Plus comes to Game Pass to help finances for Ubisoft. I saw a lot of that. Like, it's inevitable now that Ubisoft Plus will come to Ultimate. Potentially. I could see that happening. Danny Passion Official, thank you for the $2 super chat. Goes, here's where subservice would work, and he's talking about Callisto Protocol. And again, with another $2 super chat, he goes, still no ray tracing on the Series X. What did they expect? Yeah, that's bad. Although most people will play in performance mode, I think.
I'm pretty sure they did add it for the 30 frames per second mode. They did add it, and it just was slightly lower quality than the others, but it is there.
It's
Could be
there,
wrong.
but it's blurry, not real. It doesn't look shit compared to the PlayStation version. Mike, thank you so much for the $5 Canadian. I haven't played it recently though. Ubisoft is not alone. Take-Two, EA, Activision, Sony all shifted to bigger IPs. This is what AAA games do to the industry and why Xbox deserves praise for delivering no games. I didn't add that bit. I did. Argue with the $10 super chat. He goes, the industry has options with the stark difference in model with PlayStation versus Xbox. Day and date in subservices or try the PlayStation model, which will work for studios. We'll be interested to see how this goes. Asa, do you want to tackle that? That's an interesting question. It's like that AAA model suits PlayStation's model at present more versus organic flow of Game Pass. Do you think that's the thing? Would you attribute it to different platforms?
Partly. It's not so much a platform split. Subscription services are definitely shaking up the industry and definitely shaking what is and isn't viable going forwards. You've got, like that previous super chat said, the AAA gaming space has been challenging for a very long time. The answers have been, we've seen massive publishers reaching towards microtransactions, towards mega brand IPs and all the rest of it. We've seen that. And Cliffy B talked about it with Gears of War 3, that it was not sustainable the way that AAA budgets were constantly. He doesn't like to be called Cliffy B. Clifford Blazinski talked about it with Gears of War 3, back when he was called Cliffy B. About it being unsustainable because budgets were just spiraling out of control all the time and the market wasn't necessarily growing in correlation with that. So it was going to cause problems at some point. He was absolutely right. It is problems. It is challenging for all of these massive publishers who are investing hundreds of millions in a game. And if that game doesn't land, then it's a massive disaster for them financially. It's a disaster. And there is no telling that a game will land well unless it is an established IP that has an audience there waiting to buy it. So it's a difficult space, and Game Pass comes along and answers a lot of the problems there because there is funding off the bat. There is that safety net. You are going to get people playing your game and all the rest of it. The developer of Tunic has been giving an interesting interview at gamesindustry.biz, which kind of mirrors my thoughts on the subscription space. So if you haven't seen that, it's well worth checking out. But they say that the change and the shift towards subscriptions is exciting and terrifying at the same time in terms of what it's going to do to the industry, because it is doing great things for a certain build of game and for a massive range of games, but it is a scary time for anyone that doesn't get that nod of approval, that doesn't get that bag from Microsoft or Sony. So the gaming landscape, particularly in the indie space and the smaller game space and the AA space, becomes very challenging because you've now got an audience of people playing with their consoles that are quite accustomed to browsing Game Pass and downloading their next game to play rather than going to a shop or browsing on where to spend their money. So it's become, everybody has a finite amount of money and a finite amount of time, and the games industry is huge at the moment. And personally, I haven't played half the games that I want to play from December, let alone the last 10 years. So there are many, many challenges that the industry needs to face, and how it's going to play out is anybody's guess. So it is exciting and terrifying at the same time. Anybody that thinks it's just one or the other is probably not paying attention.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think to add to that, I think subscription services are the necessary disruptor, but with long term, that alone will need a disruptor in itself, because it's going to be people. It's already happening. Indie developers who are thriving off it now vying for attention from this subservice, and you're like, okay, it's a question of so many abundance of games. How do you do it justice? And it's so saturated. But Game Pass has to redress that balance a bit. But now Game Pass getting on there alone is a challenge, and it's like, what's going to happen? I don't know what the answer to that. But yeah, thank you for that super chat, Augie. It's really useful. Tom, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. It was great discussions as usual. Yes, and we haven't even hit the big topic, which we will do now. So Jez Corden, he was on the ball. We were hearing it in the background anyway. We knew about the event before. Jez knows his stuff. Yeah, he revealed it. The Xbox and Bethesda developer what's it called? Direct. Developer Direct. Announced 25th of Jan. There it is. We were begging for an Aaron Greenberg with a stupid little, I don't know why that annoys me. It just annoys me. You just see that little X when there's nothing delivered there and you see that little emoji. I don't know how to do that emoji. It just annoys me. But now I'm less annoyed because we have an event. We have an event, and I saw some people complaining. I saw your video or your live stream. That you are pissed off. Why are these bitches still complaining that this is happening? This and that. Of course, I had to have you on it. I didn't complain. To be honest, I knew about the show, but also, I'm just a couple of things there. Actually, I'm really glad. And by the way, it's because of Jez Corden that Aaron Greenberg did this. It's because of Jez Corden's article. Aaron Greenberg read that and announced, thankfully, that Starfield will have its own event. He made it clear right from the get-go. Because there was a moment they probably weren't going to say it if it wasn't for Jez. Because we were saying in the background, it's like, for fuck's sake, at least tell everyone that there is a separate event. Don't just be like, oh, there's no Starfield. What the fuck happened there? But luckily they did that well. So it's here, 25th of Jan. Talk to me. Redfall, Forza, and couple of other games are going to be appearing. What's your take on the show? Are you excited for this show?
Yeah, I am excited. I do love the transparency. Like you mentioned, they said the Starfield will have a separate show. I think that was wise to announce that ahead of time. So we would know that it's not going to be there. So we don't, because just imagine if they could have had a nice little great show, they would announce Redfall release date, Forza release date, and it would have been great. But everybody would have been talking about where was Starfield? Oh shit, the game is going to be delayed. It's not coming out in 2023. So I'm glad they said, we're going to have a separate show for Starfield ahead of time. Love it. I love this because we've always wanted Xbox to do something like this, have a smaller show.
Yep.
Maybe something to focus on some upcoming games. And honestly, in the past, they were never in a position to do that because they haven't had a lot of games releasing this generation so far. But I think it's finally time, damn it. It's time. I did say this in 2021. I did say 2022 is going to be the year. Obviously, that didn't happen. They delayed Redfield and Starfield fall.
Yeah.
But I think as Xbox fans, we deserve this. It's time for them to show what they've been working on. I know they've been developing a lot of games, and it's been a long time. That just goes to show you how there were so many droughts on the second half of the Xbox One generation to where it takes these games time to develop, and now they're in a position they can show some stuff. And I think the future is going to be great. Having a show for Starfield, I think that's a great move. And in the future, maybe we can see a separate show for Hellblade, in the future, Fable, things like that. So yeah, I'm happy about this little small show. They told us it's 43 minutes long. Don't expect the E3 type of show. That's what my little one-man podcast a few days ago, I saw people saying, where's Perfect Dark? Where's Indiana Jones? Come on, those games are not going to be at this show, bro. Stop it.
It would be stupid to show them. I've always said that. Don't show those games. Show them at E3.
At E3,
or if you're going to show them, show one at least, maybe extra.
Or maybe tease it, but show the big stuff at E3. But yeah, so I love it because I do like how Sony and Nintendo would have their little state of plays and directs where they will focus on, smaller games or games that's coming soon. So yeah, I like it. I love it.
I really like Sony's state of play thing event where a lot of them are multi-plat. They showed Tekken along with Project E, Stellar Blade, which is now exclusive. The money hat the shit out that. But still, that format works. I'm so glad Xbox are listening to the fan base because that's what happens. People, this developer showcase wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Xbox fans. That's a direct result of from summer. People bitching and moaning like me, everyone, all Xbox fans, Dutch, all of us, we were being bitching about that. That's a direct result of that. I don't give a shit what you say. That was not in their plans. It was a direct result of feedback. And now that's going to be hopefully a template that they follow going forward for a game service or Xbox, the brand that will always have a constant release of games, whether they be on Game Pass, whatever. at least we get these more transparency about what they're showing. So it's good news. To me, it's great. I'm really excited for it. I saw some people like, where is Perfect Dark? If I'm not complaining, then it says a lot. But I thought I was a habitual, guy who cried. But he's finally getting it, and that doesn't mean they've shifted the burden at all. The burden isn't. The show's still coming on the 20th of Jan. So on that point, Dutch, what do you think they need to show for it to be seen as a successful show? What are you expecting?
Thanks to Boxenberger and Xbox Germany, who had an entirely different post themselves up compared to the rest of the world. They're a little bit more direct and to the point. So Xbox Germany in their blog post actually said, we are getting release dates for these 4 titles, and it will show gameplay for these 4 titles. So we know they're getting release dates, even though we expect it anyway at this point. But we know, thanks to Xbox Germany being a little bit more pragmatic and being direct to the point, that we're definitely getting release dates.
Thank God for that.
Which is good. But no, I think this is the right way to do things. I think, and the one good thing as well that he put on that post, Aaron Greenberg, and the post itself said, is this is the first of our developer directs, which means that there definitely is going to be more going forward. Mm-hmm. You mentioned yourself as well, we've been asking for this for a while, but we specifically on the back end, not even just last year, but the year before, we said it would be really good for Xbox to create their version of a State of Play or Treehouse Live or something like that, where it's a little bit more condensed and it's a couple of times a year, so we can get updates on some of the titles that are coming up. And this looks like essentially what is going to be happening at the beginning and then the tail end of every year. I think what will probably happen is they'll have, like they are now, having a kind of at the beginning of the year deep dives for the games that are coming out within the first 6 months. So we're saying, okay, we're getting the release. If you haven't already announced the release dates, these are the specific release dates. And this is kind of the developers showing gameplay and then talking about kind of some of the lore, maybe he's talking about the characters, kind of really from their point of view, selling you the game, which is great. And then I think the next one will probably be kind of in between E3 and Gamescom, and they'll again talk about maybe 4 titles again that are coming out in that 6 months. Okay, this is, and then the next block, the start of the next year, you've got your direct again, talking about the games that are coming out in that 6 months, and then E3, and then so on and so forth. So it's a little bit more of a pragmatic approach.
Very healthy.
Like that should be the approach going forward. I think, and I've seen it as well, people saying, well, where is this game? And where is this? And why don't we have this here? And why don't we have this here? And I'm like, but that's not the purpose of a developer direct. Like, it's this purpose is these games are coming out in 6 months. They're not going to be talking about games when E3 is in June. They're not going to be talking about games that are coming out in the next 6 months when June, which they've stated they're going to be doing a 12-month plan. So every E3, it's what's happening in the next 12 months. What's happening in the next 12 months. So it's, for me, it's a perfect kind of little in between. It's what we wanted. A little update on the titles that we're getting, more gameplay, and it's closer to release gameplay. More transparency, which is key. But again, I also agree with Starfield having its own show, because that would have definitely overshadowed everything else that was there.
Yeah.
I also agree, for a change as well, thankfully, the ESO full announcement of all of their updates is on a separate stream afterwards. It's not on the same stream.
Oh, so thank God for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was like, that's the bit I was looking out for.
We've got a little block that kind of say, okay, this is the upcoming kind of season, whatever it is, and their kind of DLC, but then the actual intricacies of that is on their own show afterwards. So we're not going to go like a deep dive on Elder Scrolls Online's next DLC, thank God. And thankfully they're doing that separately. Up until this point, it's been up to the studios themselves to do their own developer updates. So we saw that from Ninja Theory. We saw that from Starfield. We see that every month from Forza, where they do the Forza Weekly and Forza Monthly. We see that every month from Sea of Thieves. They do a monthly update on what's coming up. So the onus has always been on developers as opposed to the Xbox. So it would be nice for that this time around, to turn around and say, okay, guys, so next developer direct is going to be in, we'll say end of July, beginning of August. Which 4 of you guys want to do kind of a more of a deep dive into your games, and then kind of give them that pragmatic approach?
I mean, it's in their interest as well. Like, this is a marketing push. Let's not be like completely remiss about it.
Previously as well, like they've said specifically, we've got so many of these developers that want to show their games off, but we've got to decide on when to show them off. Now, if you take that out of that hand, and we know that Playground Games don't want to show Fable just yet, so that's fine.
You believe, well, I do believe,
absolutely. But we know that they don't want to show that off yet. We know it's in a good state, which is good. It's good to hear. We know, of course, at least one person. Well, I don't know, that's at least one person that's working on it that said it is great. We all know him as well, so. So we know that. I think that's in a good place, to be honest. But they don't want to show it yet, and I don't blame Playground, because Playground Games themselves are very much perfectionists when it comes to what they create. They've said that from the start, that their aim, working with Xbox when they were acquired, was to become one of the best in the industry. And you don't do that by literally just releasing broken messes all the time. And from any of the Forza Horizons that have released, none of them have been broken. We had a few online issues with Forza Horizon 5 because it was substantially more popular than any title ever that had released in the series. But that got ironed out pretty quickly. Outside of that, though, from a technical perspective, the game was absolutely flawless. It was beautiful. It ran well. There was mountains of content in there to keep people occupied. The DLC's been heavily well received. But from other studios' perspectives, they've been wanting to show off their stuff, and Xbox have been going, no, but wait, we'll try and organize it ourselves. This could be an opportunity for them to go, can we be part of Developer Direct next time? Because we've got our game ready to go, and we can deep dive into it and tease a bit more of what's to come. So it gives a little bit more of the onus back to the developer, as opposed to Xbox organizing everything and thinking about when to show games.
I think Xbox need to be more proactive in doing that. Obviously, there's a challenge there, because you have to be a little bit more assertive and say, hey guys, all right, look, we've got this event. It would be really good now for you to get a show reel like Undead Labs. Like, guys, you've been on this for 5 years now. Surely you're ready. Surely you're ready at least to show. If you can't commit to a release date, you're ready to show, right? Also, another way.
Slice.
Yeah, exactly.
And the good thing is with these directs is you can easily put like, all of these games are currently in development, subject to change. Like, if it's a developer direct and they're showing development footage, or they're talking about the development and showing gameplay in development, then there's the disclaimer immediately, like, this isn't a finished product, but we want to show it because this is kind of our approach to it, etc. And because we know it's not an E3 where it's kind of more, okay, these are games that are coming out, we need to show you these awesome trailers and gameplay footage, and it needs to be spot on. These developer directs, like as you say, can provide updates on these games we're waiting for and give the transparency. The one thing we've said is you've had, like you mentioned, Perfect Dark's been in development forever. You've had State of Decay that's been in development for God knows how long. All of these games, all of these titles have been talked about, and then they've just went silent. Like, this is the perfect opportunity for them to just show something and then have that disclaimer. Okay, these are in development, but we can show you an update on what's happening with these. And this is our scheduled kind of release window or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Asa, this is what we were talking about last week, about vertical slices being a bit disingenuous and having more transparency. Are you a fan of these developer directs then? Does that pacify you as far as transparency is concerned?
As a format, I'm going to say in advance of actually seeing it, yes, because we've seen... everybody has been crying for them to do this for the longest time. Just like we've seen Nintendo do it, we've seen Sony do it, not developer direct specifically, but the shorter show format, giving us something to look at, something to chew on and enjoy. So I mean, the problem that Microsoft will have with the developer direct is they need to find developers that have like a certain amount of charisma to keep the show entertaining if they are going to talk to us. If they're not going to talk to us, and we don't know too much about the format in that sense yet, whether they're just whether they're putting together a vertical slice of the game and putting it in our faces, or whether they're going to spend a bit of time talking to us. So format wise, I'm fairly confident. They've seen successful shows from Sony, from Nintendo. They've seen what people want. They can go and do it. The games that they're showing at this one, Okay, we know a bit about them, but I don't know what I'm talking about. My arse hurts, Gaz. Where are we? What's going on?
I mean, are you excited about the Developer Direct anyway? Are you excited about these games, Redfall and Forza?
I am, yeah. So Redfall we've spoken about quite a bit last week. It looks gorgeous. They've obviously done their fairly extensive interview where they gave us a lot more information about it. You've got your preview on our channel that people should check out if they haven't already watched it. And yes, it is a game that I'm looking forward to. I've still got a lot of questions in terms of how long I'm actually going to want to play it for, how these systems are going to unfold, and whether it is a game I'm going to play more than once. But I am looking forward to it. Forza Motorsport 8, you know my view on that. Forza and Turn 10 make phenomenal games. It's going to be a showpiece for the Xbox Series X. So I'm interested from the perspective of someone that watches the industry and wants to see what these consoles can do. I'm interested in that capacity, but it's not a game that I'm going to play because I like my racing games to be in virtual reality. So I'm interested in Developers Direct for that. Similar for Minecraft Legends. Minecraft Legends is a weird one to me because it's doing new things. It's a kind of game, it's like a subgenre that we've not really particularly seen before. So I have hopes that it's going to be exciting. It's going to deliver something mechanically successful that can then be translated into genres and worlds that I'm more interested in. Because Minecraft is not a strong universe for me, so I'm not too interested in this game itself. But I am interested to see what the developers are going to deliver and what it is. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. January 25th, going to watch the whole thing, and it's going to be delicious.
Are we covering it live?
No.
I don't know what it's going to do. No, probably won't. Everyone's going to do it. Live coverage.
Well, it falls on during my podcast, so I can't avoid it. So,
oh, that's good then. You can cover it.
So I'll definitely be covering it because it happens to fall in the middle of my podcast. So we'll just be switching from podcast to live coverage. But I agree with Acer as well. It's going to be interesting to see what Minecraft does. But the one thing I like about Minecraft is that they're not scared to try new things within their universe to try and keep it fresh. They've got Minecraft in itself that is just forever expanding on itself as a regular IP. Then they went with that Minecraft Dungeons, which was massively successful across every platform. And I think probably more successful than they thought it would be, which ended up with lots of DLCs and expansions and a tower mode and things like that in it. So to go down this like kind of RTS route as well is very intriguing. And they've showed a lot of gameplay on it, so they're very confident. So I think probably we'll see Minecraft before any of the other titles. I think we'll probably see Minecraft first.
Yeah. Minecraft, I mean, apparently Minecraft Legends is actually a really good game. And Isla's going to kill us because she's a Minecraft fan. It never really gelled with me, but it's just, there's definitely an audience there. I'm more excited about Redfall and Forza. Those games are going to be... It's going to be epic, man. I'm really excited about Redfall now after covering it and reading that interview. Just my kind of game, co-op. For me, primarily from that, I understood that to be, from my takeaway from that interview, is that it is primarily, I know you can play it solo, they make a point about playing it solo, but the buffs, the character interactions, the way the powers work in unison with other members, I think that would be great. I think there's a lot of potential there. And I'm kind of glad people thought of it as just a basic Left 4 Dead game, because they'll be surprised when it's not. And it's a lot more than that. Dirt, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry. It's Arcane, man. I'm super excited. I love their games. I love Prey. I love the Dishonored series. I love Deathloop. Even though Deathloop kind of had me like, what the hell is going on? I finally figured it out. And once I figured it out, I loved it. Arcane, they're amazing. For me personally, I think I'm going to play solo first. Then... like play with some of the homies later. Because I don't know, just my opinion, I feel like this is a single player game with co-op. I don't know, I could obviously be wrong, but like when it comes to Arcane, that's what they do. So I'm very excited for Redfall, man. I'm very excited for Redfall.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Forza, that's the one. Forza is going to be a technical showcase as well. There's going to be people are battling some people out on the GT7 crowd, which is fine. They can be crying all they want, but Forza is going to represent potentially a racer that will set. I mean, are you expecting another Gran Turismo at the end of this gen? Maybe, perhaps, but it's not easy to pull out races like this. So I don't know. Starfield. Sorry, go on.
I want to say one quick thing about Forza. I'm sorry, guys. Forza, was it 7 came out in what, 2017?
Uh-huh. 2017,
Listen,
I
Turn
think.
10 would drop these bangers every 3 years. This will be 6 years for them.
Yeah.
This is double the development time. Just imagine what Turn 10 is going to be able to do, bro. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
next gen
absolutely.
only. It's heavily refined engine. They've actually focused more on the sim side of things as well to get into, because they've heard a lot of feedback from the sim racing community, which has kind of griefed them for it and just said, listen, the reason we still play GT and Assetto Corsa and all of those over Forza Motorsport isn't because the game doesn't look great, because it's probably one of the best looking there is.
Feeling. Yeah.
It's primarily down to the sim side of things on that. The race rules and the tire wear and the fuel management and all that stuff. Like, everything needs to be refined, and they've went to the drawing board, refined the engine entirely, retained the physics engine specifically for damage. Worked with, I know they've been working with the sim racers in order to get the race rules and everything right beforehand, and everything kind of combined. So they've heavily crafted this. It's definitely, as we've mentioned previously, though, it's one of them games that it's going to be critically acclaimed from a technical perspective, from a graphical perspective. It's going to review extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of the day, as Acer even mentioned, on the PC front, do they end up including a kind of a VR section, or at least allow VR for when you're in cockpit mode?
Oh, those bastards won't.
Does it match up with the sim racing? Do the sim racing community take to it as much as they should? How do they receive it? Because ultimately that's the crowd, because they know they can hit a great racer. They know it's going to do well with the average crowd. But how well is it received by the sim racing community? And that's the angle that they're going for. They know they've dialed down what a racer is for every one of us, but how well is it going to be received by the sim racers? And that's ultimately what's their goal this time around, which is why it took them so long. But it's going to be, as always, one of them games that if you want to showcase what Xbox can do, that's the game you put on. Look how pretty it is. Look at all this. Look at how graphically amazing it is. It's running at 60 frames with ray tracing, and then there's another mode with 120 frames, and like that is the game to showcase an Xbox. But aside from that, you're going to put in a few hours and you're going to be jumping straight back into Redfall. You're going to be something else. Like, it's not a game that you play longevity-wise. It's going to do well. There's going to be a subset of people that play this game religiously. We know that. But it is still outside of your Redfalls and your Starfields and things. Like, there is far more onus on Redfall and Starfield to knock it out of the park than Forza. Forza's pretty much nailed on to review well.
I think so too. I think unless you have fundamental technical issues, this game should be banging hard and should be lapping Gran Turismo 7 quite easily. Watch out for that Games Radar review, though. But and I say that for a reason. The game is going to be stellar. There's questions about the performance and ray tracing on track, and some people are even saying Series S might be able to do that, which I will be pleasantly shocked.
I wouldn't be, not by turn 10. Nah, I wouldn't be shocked.
The turn 10 redresses that balance. Yeah. This would be,
if it was any other studio, I'd be like, nah.
Yeah, but turn 10
and Playground, they know how to do that.
They'll have access to those tools. Shout out to 530 people watching. Please smash that like button. I'm really grateful all of you are here. On the point of what's not being shown, Starfield. Well, people, this. Do you really think? Can I do a poll? I'm going to do a poll here. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to end this poll. Shit, Asa, you did this poll, so I don't want to fuck things up.
I was sort
because I wanted to do a poll to ask people when they think it's going to come, before June or after June, because there are some rumblings. This is not going to make the June thing. It's not going to make the 12 months thing, and it might be September, might be something, maybe beyond June. What happens then? Chat. People, talk to me. Sorry, while you're drinking, I'll make you spit everywhere. What do you think if Starfield doesn't hit the June before June. Ideally, I'd say March. Sorry, but if it doesn't hit June, what's is that an L? What do you think?
I don't know if I would say an L. I mean,
would you be surprised?
Yeah, I would be surprised because they did say the next 12 months, last year's E3. So I would be surprised if it didn't drop before June. Now, if it did drop before June, I mean after June, okay, damn, it's unfortunate. But as long as the game, they needed more time for it. They needed more time to polish the game. That's all I can say. I hope it's before June, but if it's after June, it is what it is.
I don't think. I agree with you. I don't give a shit if it gets delayed for 9 months, as long as you have something else to make sure that this Microsoft Studios are doing all right and something to replace it. But they can't replace Starfield. Because Starfield is so important. As long as it's a good game, that's all I give a shit about. Personally, I don't even care about the frame rate as long as it's solid 30. But that's just me. I get it. If you want a 60 performance mode, that's on you. I completely understand that. I was saying this on X and see a lot of people were like, "Oh, what? You want 30?" But which we'll get into in a bit with Acer. But Dutch, when do you think this game is coming out?
This game would already have been, if it was down to Bethesda, this game would have been out on the 11th of November. But it wasn't down to Bethesda.
Why do you say that? You think it's because of Microsoft?
It wasn't down to Bethesda. It was down to Xbox. Seeing that game just before E3, we saw the footage and they said, absolutely not.
I'm so happy if that's the case. I'm so happy if that's
this game needs to iron out some of that. This is the reason it's called Bugthesdas, because they release games full of bugs and then spend the next year fixing them, despite how great the stories are and despite how great the world is and everything like that. It's always full of bugs and the community has to fix it, and then the community does a better job fixing those bugs, and then the next time around they release a game, those same bugs are still there, and so on and so forth. And I think Microsoft this time around, and we saw the pictures, it was no coincidence that Xbox went to view Starfield with the entire Bethesda team, and they were sitting in that cinema, and we saw them viewing it, and then not only a week or so later, before E3, did they say that Starfield's delayed.
Yeah.
Not even a week later. That was solely down to the fact that Microsoft said, take more time to polish this up.
Yeah.
I think if it was down to Bethesda on a regular time frame and it wasn't in Xbox's hands, they would have had that game released last year and it would have been getting fixed as we played it. I think
which will still get fixed as it releases. This is a Bethesda game, but you can't avoid that.
But it's not going to be, I don't think, and it's obviously it's a positive thing for us because it means that this time around, yes, there's still going to be bugs in there. It's Bethesda, but they're not going to be game-breaking ones or ones that are going to affect gameplay. They're going to be silly ones like that we love. And I've even said on my show, I still hope to have bugs in there because some of them are hilarious, absolutely hilarious, and you know them for it and you love them for it. There's been times in the past where they've removed bugs and the community said, no, we love that one. It's hilarious. So they've actually put the bug back in because people loved the stupidity of it. But I think it's definitely going to release in the first half. I think the only reason it hasn't released so far is because they give them that time off. But I think having an additional showcase, and I've said this before as well, it would be remiss for Xbox not to celebrate this title fully because it is the first title, that's the first new IP from Bethesda Game Studios in 2 decades. So I think it could be time for them to potentially not only just talk about the actual full-scale marketing for it, because it is the biggest IP that they've got releasing this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So full-scale marketing, which would begin straight after that show, but also talk about potentially, and it would, again, I would say it would be remiss if they didn't, the limited edition console to go along with it, because to celebrate it, limited edition controllers, merchandise, things like that, talk about that stuff and pre-order packages and physical limited editions and ultimate editions. That's what this showcase needs to be now, because we've seen gameplay, we've seen in-depth gameplay, we've seen the mechanics, we've seen the story, we've seen the worlds, we know the shipbuilding, we know the factions, we know the customizability. Like, we've seen quite a lot of the gameplay so far.
Bits of those, quite a lot of all the best, but not in detail. But yeah,
what we need now is this particular showcase needs to show off a little bit more, because we know it's going to be about 30 to 45 minutes long, so it's a lengthy showcase in itself. So it needs to have a little bit more kind of in-depth, okay, this is shipbuilding, blah, blah, blah. These are factions. This is what every faction can do and what perks you get with these factions when you choose to join them. Like, talk about that more in-depth in the story, because people are still now, outside of, we know Constellation, what that is. There is obviously 2 factions that have been at war, and they're currently in peacetime right now. But beyond that, we don't know what the story of Starfield is-ish. We know kind of what like the likes of Skyrim, etc. You Dragonborn, you go on to become the Dragonborn. But we don't know the story behind Starfield. We don't actually know the story behind Starfield. So getting a deep dive into that, and then at the end of it, of course, giving a definitive release date and celebrating that release properly with Microsoft. And I think that
should be heavy marketing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the heavy marketing then begins. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Someone in chat says we don't. I refuse to have Marlon Gaming Nation on. Are you mad? Of course, I like the guy. We'll definitely have him on. People really like him a lot as well. Of course, we'll have him on. Marlon's a nice guy. He switched it up. He's a bit confused this gen because Xbox kicked the shit out of PlayStation. But Marlon's lovely. Get Ray on the show. I don't think that'll be a family-friendly show, but I'm not afraid of that.
Hey guys, I let them know you want them on the show.
If I do it on my channel, like a one-on-one, it'll just be like a rap battle and just bad. It'll be bad. No, Dutch, you're right. I think. Wait, you didn't actually let us know when you think the game is coming out.
It's still. I think Starfield is probably still. There's 2 options here. There's 2 options when it will release. It's definitely released in the first half of the year, but there's 2 options when it can officially release. Now, I think the realistic option is probably going to be June.
Okay.
I think June is the really realistic option. The more optimistic option, actually, which a lot of people have seen in the background, is potentially releasing it earlier than that, say March. Those are the 2 actual options that I've heard. Now, June is the one that they've kind of set as their internal, but March is the one that has also been rumored based on kind of the should we say, the link in with a very important day with NASA. It is essentially kind of, I think it's the birth of flight, which is a historical moment, of course, within aviation and things like that. So that has been touted as a potential release date as well. But those are the 2 sections. It's not going to miss the first half. Bethesda themselves on their internal.
Wait. I'm going to clip that.
You can clip it.
I'm not going to clip it. I'm not a dick.
Tell them, Dutch.
This is the thing as well, like, and this is where it becomes quite difficult because of how late this show is happening in January. Then it becomes difficult to know which comes first. It's more of an organization thing now. Which are we going to release first? Because I know Forza's coming in spring. I know that.
Okay.
But we also know from Minecraft Legends that that's coming in spring because they've got that on their website, coming spring 23. Okay. But then we also know Starfield themselves have got on their website first half of 2023. So all 3 of them have detailed their release date. Well, Forza hasn't officially, but I have. I know that. So 3 of them, those 3 specifically, have first half release windows that they've got and they've said. So it's now more of an organizational thing. Like, which one are we getting first? And I still think it'll be Minecraft Legends first. I think it'll be Redfall second, Forza third, and then Starfield in June.
Personally, do we get a custom console?
This is what I've said. I think it would be remiss for Xbox to not do a custom console for Starfield. I think to celebrate something that's the biggest title in Bethesda's history, essentially. Like, it's the one that Todd Howard's been wanting to make throughout essentially his existence. This is the title he's wanted to make. And it took, he said himself, like, we've pitched this for years. And the game itself has been something we've been talking about and kind of looking at for the last decade. and it's our first new IP for 2 decades. It would be remiss for Xbox to not come out and do a limited edition console to celebrate that.
Yeah, they have to.
Of course it does. Like, if you can do it for Halo, which is the biggest IP essentially that Microsoft have, it was the one that birthed the console. Skyrim is essentially Oblivion was the one that birthed Bethesda. Now, of course, naturally, it's okay, wait for that. But this is the first new IP they've came up with in 2 decades. I just think it would be a massive
it would be stupid. Massive failure. I think Microsoft will, once they confirm that this game is coming out in the second half of 2023, then they'll start marketing. Hey, I'm in Rand and Jez's camp. They reckon it's going to be in the second half of it.
I think both of them said July, didn't they? I think they said July.
It might be September, but they did say July. But it's slipped.
Which is
I reckon.
Just miss out.
I'd love to be wrong.
Do they think that they're going to like essentially just wait until E3's done, get a little bit more hype for it at E3, and then release it? I don't know. But that's like basically saying it is going to release in the first half, but not quite. That's what Jeff said.
I'm not even allowed to say things, so I'm just not going to say anything. But I just genuinely believe that as guesswork, just complete guesswork. I have no idea. This is all based on hearsay. I reckon it's going to slip the first half of 2023, and I reckon personally it could be July, but it could be September. It's not much. It's only a few weeks, months difference, I guess. It's not a big deal. You've got Forza, you got Redfall, you got Minecraft Legends. Like, just shut people. That's fine. You got enough games there. Then you got so much shit on Game Pass alone, and this is like, that's fine. Only because Starfield has to be good. It has to be amazing. That's my attitude. But I think it's going to slip the first half.
I mean, from what we've heard from Colt, who obviously on XNC spoke about the playtesters who've been playing it, it's better than what they've been told. It's kind of
a little bit
depth.
more about that, but I can't even talk about that. But be happy with the game. I mean, no concerns about the game itself. The release date is all I'm talking about. But I don't know. I don't fucking write articles. I literally don't know. I'm just hearing from random little people. Could be Acer's knee telling me this. Yeah, Acer with a talking knee. How are you, Acer? What do you think about Starfield and its trajectory to release?
Don't care. I'm not going to guess that. They're all going to come out on exactly the same day. Forza, Minecraft, Starfield, and whatever the other one is. Really put Quick Resume to the test on like the 20th of May. And it's going to be great. Yeah, that's my guess. That's how much I care for guesses. And yes, you got no speculation from me. I will say though, on Starfield, when they do their separate, so I'm going to watch the Xbox developer direct that's on January the 25th. I'm going to watch that and I'm going to learn about all of these games because I want to know more about them. Starfield, they had me at like, it's like Skyrim in space, and I don't need another word. So I don't actually necessarily think I'm going to watch that developer direct or that follow-up, that Starfield show. I'll need to for the sake of talking about it here, but if I were just off on my own in the corner, deciding what to watch for my own entertainment, I would skip that one. Just like I skipped everything in the build-up to God of War Ragnarok, because there are some games where you kind of know what it is, and seeing...
I agree. Yep.
Seeing all the marketing it lessens the experience rather than makes it better. I can wait. So Starfield is one of those for me.
Nope,
Starfield hopefully has a lot more going for it that any 30-minute showing will, do it. It won't diminish your experience because you've got so much going for it. But yeah, it depends on what they show. But I'm not worried about Starfield quality-wise. I just want it to hit really high. This is a passion project worked for 2 decades, like you say, the newest IP that they've done in God knows when. And for me, space is perfect. So Yeah, like I'm in Rand and Jez's camp. Whatever they say about when they think this game is releasing, I'm with them. That's all I'll say. Whether they're right or wrong, I'll get burnt. Reverse, well, thank you for the $5 super chat. He goes, this first half for Xbox has 3 or 4 first-party games, while PlayStation has none. Sony has had the quality argument, but it feels like the Xbox dam has broken. Until we get those release dates, it's going to be a bit hard there. But at the same time, what does PlayStation have first party wise?
This year? All they have is Spider-Man 2 this year.
That's it,
for me,
right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. For me, this year, Sony need to get back to their marketing that they had pre-22. In 2022, they went completely dead silent, and I literally don't know what VR. I can expect from Sony this year outside of Spider-Man and Final Fantasy and Forspoken. Like, that's
and VR.
So we know.
VR.
Yep, well, VR. That's if you want to spend £1,000 on VR and games.
It's crying inside as we said VR.
Asa will. Yeah, Asa's like, I've pre-ordered. It's already done. But Asa even knows himself. Still, as it stands, VR is a very niche section. There's not many people on the market right now are going to go out and spend $600 just for the headset, and then for every of the 30 titles that comes out, you're spending between 40 to 70. You talk a significant outlay.
But the few people that do will have a better time than the people that don't.
As they throw up everywhere.
You know, the good thing is I've seen multiple reviews for the VR headset now, and they've all been extremely positive.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear. It is good to hear. I hope the DualSense controllers that they've got for the headset last longer than the DualSense itself. That would be a major plus. Yeah. I think, obviously, and we know the headset as well for your perspective is much easier to set up because it's a singular cable. It's not multiple cables like the previous one. But the outside for the rest of us who aren't going to be gaming on VR, there is no roadmap for this year, and even Spidey is set for some point in 23. Like there isn't a definitive release date for Spidey
probably,
yet.
Maybe.
Yeah, holiday. But so what you're doing for the first 12 months outside of VR, and this is an issue that Sony need to fix. But on Xbox's perspective, I think a quality thing for me, for Xbox, from now onwards, and this includes the developer directs, it's consistency. And they need to be consistent with the developer directs. They need to be consistent with the games outplay. Like it's been too long now, and not even just 23 and 24, because I think 23 and 24 will hit. I think it'll be 25 beyond is where they need to make sure the consistency stays. I think 23 will be smashed. I think 24 will get smashed. But it needs to continue. Like we had the launch of the console, which was brilliant. We had lots of awesome stuff. And then we had the next year. Well, sorry. No, it was the year of the console with air. 21 was great. 22 was an absolute waste of time. And then this year's going to smash it. Like it needs to be like this all of the time, not like...
Yeah. It's like the Pakistan cricket team. It's just like... just
Sony notoriously have been... it's always consistently releasing games and releasing pretty high quality.
Usually shit, and then they go boom. But like this, and then
it takes like a year or so to get into the grind, and then whoop, and then it just stays there. And
but
that's
right
what
now,
Xbox
I think PlayStation might have gone up and dip a little.
I think they're going to dip. Because I think a lot of the new studios they just purchased, their games are not ready. I think that's why they're doing a lot of remakes and time exclusive deals. I mean, it makes sense though, because Xbox games are taking so long because, like I mentioned earlier, the second half of last generation, they just didn't have much in development besides Halo, Gears, and Forza and Sea of Thieves. They just didn't have much in development. So they're obviously developing games now. Thank God they were able to get ZeniMax, because they didn't have ZeniMax, I like there was somebody, I think it was Shinobi, somebody on Twitter said that, where would they be without ZeniMax? Well, that's why they bought them, right? They bought them
exactly.
to drop games for
same way Insomniac and Sony.
Yeah,
I was going to say Insomniac.
Exactly.
They've saved them this generation.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like PlayStation, they obviously had more games than Xbox this generation. They had like the sequels, Resident Clank. They had Returnal, things like that. So unfortunately for us Xbox fans, we had to deal with 2022, but that's obviously in the past now. We can, every year there's more games that's closer to being ready to be dropped, and we don't know what Coalition is doing. We don't know what Compulsion is doing. We hear the rumors about IO, like where's Contraband? There's so many games in development that they have announced. We don't even know some of the games they haven't announced. So I think the future is looking extremely bright, and I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for it as well. I think I'm more excited for Xbox, but I've said this multiple times, because we know what their roadmap is. With PlayStation, we don't, and there's a big question mark around that. Yeah. I think 2023 is going to be a bit of a loss, unless on the VR front, if it really does well, and I hope it does well because of what it means generally for VR and for Acer's sanity. Spider-Man 2, I think Spider-Man games are overrated, but that's just me. I'll be quiet about that. Also, you agree with it? That he's always got my back, even when he doesn't. But yeah, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, fine. I'm not overly happy. I know it's a big system set. The one game that Sony could release that could be big, and I mean big, this year, that would crush a lot of narratives, or not narratives, but establish something new for PlayStation, is if The Last of Us Factions delivers. The notion of a PlayStation first-party studio, Naughty Dog of all studios, then delivering a multiplayer game that they said was so ambitious, if you believe them, that they had to go, I said it, Bear Baron, it is Factions. It could be incredible. Can you imagine? Okay, just humor me for a second. Imagine fucking Factions is not getting cancelled, beta. Imagine it'd be crazy if it did. Imagine Factions comes out, delivers an incredible multiplayer experience, really deep, because I think that has the potential. What does that mean for PlayStation? They finally did a live service. I think it's gonna be a live service game.
Absolutely.
Game. Yeah. Well, yeah, it must be. It has to be.
Yeah.
A free to play and whatever.
I think it's possible, because I do believe the Naughty Dog is like that good, because their Last of Us multiplayer, it was different, but it was actually kind of dope.
It was good.
But let's not forget, because I saw some people saying Factions in 2023. Neil Druckmann said last year, he said they're going to show Factions this year. It's not releasing this year.
Yeah.
So they might show it on the State of Play, or if PlayStation decides to have a showcase this year. But I think it will be good. I don't think it'll be some crappy multiplayer. I think it'll be a decent game, because I do like Naughty Dog. That's one of my favorite studios on the PlayStation. So I do think it will be a good game, and I'm actually interested to see. Like to see it.
I don't think it just needs to be a good game. You took it out of the Last of Us 2, and you spent years on it. It needs to be fucking amazing. If it's not that amazing, then unless it gets a lot of players and a lot of money from the PlayStation guys, because they're starved for multiplayer games on exclusives, then I think it's a bit of a loss. But I'm saying it now, I have a lot of faith in Naughty Dog. They might actually deliver something that PlayStation guys, and BG always says this rightly, they scoff at multiplayer because it doesn't suit their narrative. No. You guys, when it does bang, you'll see a lot of U-turns, and then everyone's going to be like, yeah, multiplayer. That's just, watch this space. CYBU, thank you so much for the $5 super. Because imagine saying Xbox looks good in 2023 because they delayed games from the previous years. Don't forget that PlayStation has live service games later.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Yeah, go for it.
So you're going to tell me Gran Turismo, I can't even talk, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War were games that was not delayed from the previous year, sir? Is that what you're going to say?
And then he says, don't forget PlayStation has live service games later. What?
I'm talking about the first part, the first sentence.
I don't understand. Why would you come up with that?
Come on, bro. PlayStation had games delayed also. All of their games that dropped last year were
Like the entire
delayed from
industry's
the
like
previous
pushed
year.
back 2 years.
Yeah, come
the
on.
entire
Stop
industry's
it,
been
Chubb.
pushed
What's your
back
name?
significantly.
What? Stop it, bro.
Don't talk that shit, bro. MK, thank you for the $5 super chat. Dirt, old girl behind you said, "Give me that milk, Dirt."
Yeah,
oh my god!
man.
I just read that and then I clocked what you were saying. I'm like, what? Oh, I didn't even know. Thanks for that, MK. Yeah, and finally, the last topic before we go off kilter. A shout out to Blaze in the chat. Nothing looks better than God of War 2018 on Xbox. Doesn't matter. No hate. Are you gonna let Blaze say that? Nothing looks better than God of War 2018.
God of War Ragnarok looks better.
Blaze. Yeah, no, he says on Xbox. Nothing looks better.
I saw this PS4 Pro have.
Leave Blaze. He's good peoples.
I'm sure he is. I would never know.
Oh shit! And on that note, last topic: Google and Nvidia expressed their concern to the FTC over ABK. Asa loves this topic. Go for it. What's your take on
that?
it?
They did. They expressed their concerns. We've only seen third person perspective, like insider story. This is a thing that has happened at some point over the last however long the Activision Blizzard King thing's been going on for. Which is, I mean, none of it's a surprise, is it? People act surprised, but I don't know. We already kind of knew that Google had spoken up in some kind of opposition, and it was fully expected that they would. Nvidia might be a little bit more of a surprise, but if you are talking about the cloud gaming space in particular, which they were, makes sense to a degree. And
I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't know why you brought it up. Stupid.
yes, you do. You love it. You love it.
I don't even know nothing about this, guys. I'm like, I saw it and I quickly scrolled by it.
Can we all just say fuck it, Microsoft? Just get it done. It's on you.
No, actually, no, guys. You know what? I've had like a year of this attitude where I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about it. You fucking make me talk about it. So no, Gaz, talk about Activision Blizzard for the next 17 hours.
Right. Well, Blaze, I see you in chat. I'm gonna just be a nice guy. Come on, man. You guys will get on if you guys just nice people. Come on, man. But yeah, look, FTC, fuck it. I don't give a shit. Lena Khan, yes, she has a big nose like me. I get it. I saw it in Dirt's chat. I don't care. I have nothing to add to that. Just get
I
the
can
deal.
add one thing. Like these are, it was a non-article. It was an absolute non-article. They've raised concerns, but none of them oppose it. So it makes no difference. Like anybody can raise a concern, but if ultimately at the end the question to them was, "Do you oppose this?" and they say no, then
I would disagree that their concerns will just. I would disagree that their concerns don't matter. I wouldn't say it's a nothing. Like they're all.
I wouldn't say that.
Chalked on a board somewhere.
Like,
but
yeah, ultimately it's just like okay, right, no problem. But are you opposed to it? No, right, no problem.
Yeah,
Whereas Sony were opposed to it and raised multiple concerns about multiple things. Both Google and Nvidia raised concerns about singular articles. They didn't concerns about the entirety of the deal. It was about competition in certain very limited aspects, but they weren't overall imposed to the deal. So to me, it was just a non-article. It's again because, unfortunately, this is still an ongoing debate that none of us really care about. We've heard too much about it, and they just have to put these things out.
Well, Microsoft will have to pay the fine now, will they? They'll be paying that big fine because it's going past June. The deal is not finalizing in June now, so they're paying the $5 billion, wherever it is. That's a lot of money, bros.
Well, if the EU and the CMA, if the EU and the CMA essentially say yes before June, they can close this deal anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know. But that's a lot of money. That's it. See. So we will see. We will see.
Real minor thing, just on that one point, the June date. They have said, like, in the American courts that they're willing to close the deal without the FTC's approval if it goes through in like the UK and Europe. So they could presumably sidestep the $5 billion, whatever it is, penalty by closing the deal and then dealing with the legal ramifications afterwards. But
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because they're confident court-wise, which would take a long time with the FTC. They're confident in court they would win that. So they've already said themselves they're happy as long as CMA and EU say yes. Before that point, then they'll close the deal and worry about the rest of it afterwards.
It's a big if, though.
I see. Yeah. Let's see how it does. Let's see how it goes. I don't want to talk about the FTC anymore. Well, I think on that note, we'll bring it to an end. We'll be getting some news next week as well. Remember, Starfield, Jez, and Rand, everything go to them. Listen to what they say. I am on their camp. I have no idea about anything. Please don't do anything about what Gaz said. Shit, I'm already seeing stuff on Twitter. It's like, no, nothing to do. I know nothing. Fuck off. Anyway, on that note, on that weird note, before we get the gents to say the outro, thank you everyone in chat, by the way. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it. ASAP, what's in store next?
What are you talking about? You've got like almost the whole 17 hours left. Keep going. Activision Blizzard. No, I don't know. I do my show on a Thursday that I put far too much effort into every week, sorting out backgrounds and music and all of that kind of stuff. It's always a good time. So check that out on my little channel, and lots more VR and lots more games and a lot more kind of consumable videos is my plan going forwards. Yeah.
No, fair enough. No, absolutely. Shout out. I did not confirm Starfield delay. I'm just saying whatever Jez and Rand said, you might want to listen to them. That's all I'm saying. For fuck's sake, everyone's like just saying it to me. Why? I hope you had a good time. Please talk that shit. Tell people where they can find you. Your show's growing tremendously despite Ray. It's doing really well.
Oh, man.
Tell people.
Ray, shout out to Ray the homie. You know, him and guys don't get along too well. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, man. I had a lot of fun. Check out my channel. Dirt Griggity, you know, we have a lot of fun over there. Ponies like G Wooby, Wubby, he probably won't like it, because you know, we go after ponies all day long. And yeah, I stand on that, and I don't care what anybody thinks. So yes, stop by if you like little stuff, you know, shit talking, but we also talk topics. You know, we talk gaming news, we have our opinions, and you know, we have a good time over there. So thanks for putting my link in the chat. So yeah, stop by and say what's up, yo.
Absolutely, please do check it out. It's very messy chat, but yeah, shout out to Dirt, shout out to Ray, rest in peace. Last but certainly not least, it's Wandering Dutch. Now, I'm glad you managed to join us in the middle of the show, man. Tell people where they can find you, and I hope you had a good time.
Oh yeah, always a great time. Apologies for jumping in halfway through, but yeah. No, always a great time here. It's great to join you guys, and definitely had fun. Speaking to you guys, it's always fun. You can find me everywhere at Wondering Dutch. As always, for those who don't already follow me, we do many streams these days. So we've got our Save Tuesdays Playercast on Tuesdays, our Midweek Mix-Up podcast on Wednesdays, and our Weekend Edition on Sundays. Of course, in between that, you'll find many other different things, either developer interviews or gameplay live streams, etc. But you pretty much find me everywhere, to be honest. If it's not here on a podcast, it's Primetime Gaming with Boom, or it's over on Boxenberger's channel with Wilder Gaming, where I'm a co-host. So I'm everywhere. So if you can't find me, it's surprising.
Absolutely. No, you are. There's a reason for that, because you do add good chat as one, depth to the conversation. So I appreciate you coming on. Even midway through, you just carried it. As always, both gents, as always, veterans in this space now. Thank you so much, everyone in chat. Patrick, thank you for the membership, chat. Great show. He says, have a good weekend. Cheers, chat. Well, most of you. Yes, absolutely all of you, including the ponies and the Xbots, all of you. I wish you all a lovely weekend. Hope to have some content this week, including PlayStation versus Xbox, the 2023 exclusive battle. Just an opinion piece from me, a video on that, and also my 20 pre-Bethesda showcase thing, 20 whatever developer direct video. So 2 videos in the works. I still need to edit yours, so I'm sorry. But please hit the like button on the way out. Like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for listening to us on Spotify after the fact. That was a very bad outro. I love you all. Peace. Take care. Bye.